Okay, cool. Looks like we are now going live. I see Mango Man in the chat, Parker Owen, Timor. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Riri Kikas. Hello there. Microt, Mysturk. Oh, it looks like Mysturk left. I'm sorry, Mysturk. But we are now live. So for those who don't know, the man right here, the legend, he's his shirt right there, bro. Look at it. Yeah,
the best
legendary.
kind of shirt you can have.
This is Shifty. It's been a little bit of a minute, but he's back. You were just explaining to me before we were going live. I was like in a rush to get everything together, but you know, you've been on a little bit of a hiatus, right?
Yeah, I've a little bit of a hiatus dealing with some things behind the scenes, but been kind of quarantined lately. But I'm also an essential worker, so I'm still busy despite all that stuff going on. So
apparently, I'm essential as well. Yeah. It is interesting how that all works out, but yeah. So guys, Shifty makes YouTube videos. He covers a lot of things, including Smash Brothers. You know, a lot of you love Smash Brothers, so please make sure to check out his channel. He is much better at Smash Bros. Than I am. So, although I gotta say, man, we should have a rematch soon because I've been working on my game a little bit. I'm still terrible, but less terrible. Yeah.
Right.
And I guess for the record, terrible is, I mean, put that in air quotes, right? Because there's plenty of people I can beat, but there's plenty of other people who can beat me. You know, that's just the game. But yeah. So, yep.
I'd be more than happy to have that rematch.
Well, dude, when we did that little Let's Play thing, I thought that was great. You beat me like what, like 14-2 or something?
I think it
15-1.
because the game is 15, so I think it was 15.
I think I somehow earned, I somehow put myself in a situation where I was gonna be able to beat you with Captain Falcon just using Falcon punches, and then I killed myself right at the end.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
That was an interesting.
I think you were rooting for me in that battle. Yeah. But this anyway, guys. For those who don't know, this is the weekly podcast due every Sunday night. So I see Super Chris was asking about Brandon. Brandon's a little bit busy this week. He's in the middle a bit of working on a move, so he had to drop out last minute because he's got a lot going on between school and stuff. So, you know, he's fine. But anyway, the focus for today, we're going to be talking about all of the Mario rumors, right? We're going to get into a little bit of a few other things as well. But mainly we are focusing on the Mario rumors, and then of course, you guys, any questions or thoughts, please relay them in the comments below. I'll admit that I should have probably done a little bit more research on the whole Flipnote Studio thing. I didn't get a chance to do that. I see some people talking about it in a chat already. Do you know what I'm referring to, Shifty?
I heard about it. I believe it was a leak thing, and then it just ended up being like
An April Fool's
joke.
Yeah.
That was funny, but I think at the same time I could see, because I'm not someone who really used the original Flipnote. I'm not a very how to put it, artistic person. So for the most part, I never really used Flipnote back then, but I could see the artists people, you know, the people who drew everything on the Wii U and the 3DS being kind of disappointed that was a joke.
Yeah, like it looked like there was some sort of leak internally, and then there was all these different Flipnote doodles, and it seemed to perhaps be implying like the rest of the year for Nintendo, right? But no, it's not. So that's pretty much all I know about it. It's not real. So yeah, but if you guys have any thoughts on that, please relay them in the comments below. And of course, guys, you know, we are heavily reliant on the chat to sort of create additional conversations. So if you have any thoughts or questions, please share them in the comments below. And yeah, if you want to at me specifically so I can get to your particular thought or question more quickly, by all means do so. Leaving a like is greatly appreciated. Share the podcast with others who love Nintendo, and definitely make sure to check out Shifty's channel. It is linked in the description below. But let's just jump into the thick of things. You ready?
Yeah, I'm
Let's
ready
do
to
it.
go.
All right.
I'm always ready.
Always ready. Okay, so the rumor, and I believe the first site that reported this was the Video Game Chronicle, right? And then Eurogamer followed, and then VentureBeat. All of these sites who have legitimate like insider information. Like these are not just random people. They are all they get the press releases. They are official media, things of that nature. They're actually industry insiders, right?
Right. Okay.
So they will know things, and they make reports all the time, and they get these things right. Granted, it should always be noted, I feel, that when we're talking about stuff that hasn't been officially announced by that particular company, plans change, right? Development is fluid with things. Sometimes things are moved up, sometimes they're canceled, sometimes they just gain a different perspective, and they sort of change their plan, right? So this is a rumor. Even if it's like 100% true now, it might not be true now a month from now. Nintendo may decide to change things around a little bit. That all said, I think this is a fairly likely rumor because it's coming from so many different sources. And the rumor is, basically, right, we are going to be getting a number of things for Mario's 35th anniversary this year. This includes some more information on perhaps the Mario movie, some more information on the Mario Park, right, which hopefully will still open this year, but we'll see how that works out due to the whole global health concern. But more importantly, for the sake of this podcast, in terms of actual games, right, we are supposedly getting a ground-up new Paper Mario game that's going back to the roots of the N64 and GameCube days, right? This is sort of the same rumors been going around for a while, but now from other more legitimate sources. But then also we're supposedly getting a Super Mario World 3D Deluxe, right, which has also been rumored for a while as well. Emily Rogers was talking about 2 Wii U ports coming. Supposedly they are 3D World Deluxe and a Pikmin 3 port, but we'll see how that works out. And the biggest part of the rumor, the one thing that has us sort of really excited, is that supposedly we're going to be getting multiple remasters this year for multiple 3D Mario games, and that includes Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. We don't know about Galaxy 2 or 3D Land, they're up for debate, but it's looking pretty cool. And in my opinion, and actually this is probably a great way to sort of jump into like your first question here, I think for sure that if this rumor does happen, that it's a collection. They're not going to release them individually all in the course of 1 year. What do you think?
I agree. At least I hope that's the case.
Right.
Because it'd be very expensive otherwise.
Mhm.
I think the best way to do it would be kind of similar to the I think the Borderlands collections and the BioShock collections are doing this on the Switch, where it's like you can get the collection, but you could also buy them separately as an option if you want to.
Okay.
So I would imagine that would be the ideal thing. Like maybe it was 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, right? So those 3, right?
If it's just those 3, maybe 20, 20, and 20. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And then you could just, because I don't want Sunshine. So I would just get, Mario 64.
What would be smarter, though, is to have them each individually for $24.99 and then sell them for $60.
Yeah, there you go. And then they can make the argument that it's a deal, if you get the
But so then you're all in on this rumor.
In terms of it being true, or because in terms of it being something I would like, obviously I'm all in, right?
Yeah.
But
who wouldn't? There's gonna be like one guy, I hate Mario, it's the stupidest thing ever.
Too much Mario.
Too much jumping and Yoshi and polish and good platforming.
Bro, there's some franchises out there I wish would do that sort of thing. Like I have a slime from Dragon Quest right here. I wish Dragon Quest would do a collection like that.
Well, that sounds daunting to me.
True, but I'll do it.
But there's I think you will agree there's a difference between 3 100-hour RPGs and 3 games that you can speed run and beat somewhere between 10 and 30 hours, To
be fair, 100 hours is putting it lightly. But
okay, well, see, yeah.
My point is I'm one of those people who like seeing old games being brought back in a way that's convenient.
Right.
And I've seen some people kind of be negative, not in terms of the Mario rumor specifically, but just the idea of bringing back older games because they want new games, and I get that. Yeah. But if in terms of this, I'm totally all for it. I just want to see how exactly they go about it, if that's the case, and if it's real. I don't know. I don't know if it. I don't know how much to put into it, how much I believe in it, because seeing a lot of reputable people talk about it is interesting. I think that's not something to ignore. But at the same time, you and I both know, and I'm sure many out there know, if it's not publicly announced yet, there's probably, a bit of a percentage of a chance of it never happening because things change behind the scenes all the time.
Right. Mother 3?
Mother 3?
Yeah.
Or as far as we know.
As far as
That's what
we don't
happened.
really know what happened, right? We
Right.
can only assume that Mother 3 was planned, and they were like, wait a second, this probably won't go over well with the whole localization and the whole... It's a whole thing, but...
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have the Mario remasters this year because looking at the whole situation with COVID-19, right? Oh, don't demonetize me, YouTube. I'm probably fine. It's just the point is that it's considered sensitive, but point is that this whole virus is leading to a lot of changes all over with every industry in the world, right? And there's a number of cancellations and delays and things of that nature. It could greatly impact the 2020 lineup. In fact, you could argue that maybe the 2020 lineup has already been impacted, right? How many ground-up Nintendo games do we know about so far for the year, right? We have Animal Crossing. You could argue Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. It's a remake using a new engine, but you know what I mean, though, right? Like, I'm really excited for Definitive Edition. Do not get me wrong, right? Every time I say this, I feel like I'm slighting the game. I am not, but I think it's still the point still holds that it's a remake and not a brand new Xenoblade game, right? Like, it's easier to do a remake than it is to do a brand new Xenoblade game. Animal Crossing was delayed into 2020, right? It was initially supposed to come out in 2019, and besides that, we don't know about any other brand new Nintendo games besides, I guess, Bravely Default 2, which is being published by Nintendo but not being internally developed by Nintendo.
Yeah, and also No More Heroes, but that's again.
I don't know if
Nintendo's
Nintendo's published that. Yeah, do you think they're gonna publish it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Actually,
they might.
I'm going to Google.
They
that.
might, but I don't know.
Is that known already? If they're publishing,
you could be right. I'm not sure.
I'll try googling it.
I've been going under the assumption that it's not, but yeah, the Google may tell us.
Yeah. No, it's Grasshopper. Okay. Yeah. So that's something that could come to other platforms down the road, then, if that's the case.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because No More Heroes is one of those franchises that is mostly if you follow the series straight ahead and you want to follow the story, you kind of have to play them on Nintendo systems because they're the only ones that actually have the full stories. Whereas the PlayStation versions only have the first game and the boss fights from 2, and not really the full story, which is a weird decision.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's a very weird decision. But that's why I say it's a weird relationship when it comes to that. It's mostly on Nintendo, but partially not just there. I don't know. It's entirely.
Yeah, and I still feel like it's definitely a smaller. I don't know if they're counted as indie, but it's definitely a smaller studio. Right?
I would say bigger than indie, but not quite AAA.
Right. Yeah.
It's somewhere in that middle area.
Yeah. But going back to the point though, the first half of 2020 has seemed a little barren, right? To sort of bring back to the whole Mario discussion, Nintendo may be in a situation where they can't bring out as many ground-up new AAA Nintendo games for this year. So to sort of make up for that, they're sort of slotting in a lot of ports and remasters. My hope is that 2020 is going to be a bit more backloaded, right? 2019 was actually quite backloaded as well, right? So I'm hoping that, come summertime, we're going to be like, oh my God, there's a good game coming in once or twice, every 2 weeks or a month or so, right? The same, 2019, we had Link's Awakening, Mario Maker 2, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Astral Chain, Luigi's Mansion 3, Sword and Shield, Dragon Quest 11, all published by Nintendo within a 5-month period or something. There's probably a couple other games I missed, but I'm not sure. Anyway, point is, I could see Nintendo using these Mario remasters as a way to sort of complete the 2020 lineup so it's not as terrible as it might be forced to be because of COVID-19.
Right. And yeah, I'm not sure how many of Nintendo's games will be impacted necessarily by COVID.
Your optimism,
like, I feel like
it's filling my heart with joy. Continue.
because I feel I think some games are going to be delayed. I just don't know which ones, and I feel I'm pretty confident on the Xenoblade thing because they kind of reiterated that it's coming out the same day that they mentioned.
Pretty sure that game's already gone gold.
Yeah, like I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah,
you know, because I saw some people a little concerned because was it The Last of Us got delayed and that was releasing on the same day. But I think Xenoblade's fine, especially since they reiterated. In terms of everything else, I don't know because I don't know what else they're publishing. You know, like, okay, we have like we mentioned Bravely Default 2 and No More Heroes, but that basically falls under, I think, Grasshopper Manufacturer and Square Enix. So I could see a good portion of the games is actually just releasing on time. Actually, I don't see them getting delayed unless it really does get a lot worse for these companies. Like I believe Capcom had somebody with COVID-19, like a confirmed case at Capcom.
Okay.
So maybe like Capcom might take some precautions or something along those lines. But I feel like this is like a very unpredictable situation in the world that it's very hard to predict anything in the next, I don't know, to the end of the year maybe.
I think it is tough. Quick question. I see a couple people are kind of asking me to change this little green outline that keeps popping up on the Discord thing. Is this something they just changed? Like I set it up right before the podcast. I have no idea how to turn it off. No idea. Shifty, I know I brought it up to you before, but I don't even know if you know what I'm referring to yet.
No, I have the stream pulled up. I can see it.
I don't know how to turn it off, guys. If one of you guys are also using Discord calls, if you know how to, because I think they just changed this, because last week it was not like this. I want to remove it, but I have no idea how. I might just have to leave it, guys. I hope it's not too annoying.
Okay, there you go. I just managed to zoom my camera in, so if I'm not, I'm not zoomed out all the way like I was.
Wait, maybe... Will this do it? I do not know if this will do it, but I'm gonna see. Alright. Come on, nope, still there. I don't know how. Sorry, guys. I can't see. I don't know how to fix it. Not right now, at least. Sorry. We'll just have to leave it like this for now. Unfortunately. Yep.
Sure, we'll get it down anyway soon.
Yeah. But since I was checking out the chat, there's quite a few comments, so I'm gonna have to focus on just like the ads right now, and we're gonna back into the discussion. Trey Siverson added me. I wouldn't mind seeing any 3D Mario game come to the Switch, but the one Mario game I really want to see get a port, remake, or remaster on the Switch is Super Mario RPG. Bro. So, like, yes. I don't know. I mean, I feel like given with all... Assuming the rumor's true, I don't expect it. The only thing I could kind of hope for is that maybe each Mario game they have come out this year, they use it as a way to sort of celebrate the history of Mario. So maybe with Paper Mario, they sort of take the route what they sort of do with the 3D Mario games, and they have a lot of nostalgic nods. So for Paper Mario, its roots really are Super Mario RPG. That was the first Mario RPG, and that system sort of evolved into Paper Mario, right? So maybe this new Paper Mario game could at least have some like homages to Super Mario RPG. That would be really cool. One crazy one, right, that I was speculating about a few months ago that might be too crazy, right? Maybe it's not that crazy, is Geno. Throwing in Geno there, right? And then if there's somehow a Geno Smash character thrown in, like, that would just be, like, really cool to see. I don't know if we should expect it, but maybe, right? What say you, Shifty?
I honestly don't have much of a connection to Super Mario RPG because I think my first time playing it was when it was on the Wii U. So I took a long time to finally play that game. So I don't have as much of a strong connection to it, but it is one of those games I did enjoy. So if it got like a lot of representation or like a remake or a remaster, yeah, I'm buying it. Like I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna have a good time with it. I think.
I mean, can you play it on Nintendo Online? Is it one of the Super Nintendo games available?
I don't think.
I know it's on the SNES Classic.
Yeah, it is. I'm not sure. I don't think it is. Maybe if it is, then I haven't noticed.
Yeah,
if that's the case.
I feel like the answer is no, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it.
I right now my Switch is not. I would have to turn on a whole other television to check.
I have my Switch right here, but then I have to download the app on that one because it's my secondary Switch.
The thing is, the Wi-Fi setup here won't work. I have the Switch has to be connected to connect to the internet, so I wouldn't be able to like log into my app portably, because you need the online service. So games, Control F, because I don't want to read each one. No, it's not there. Super Mario RPG is not a part of the online lineup at this point. But I mean, maybe that's one thing they could do, right? Just make sure that every Mario game is available on Nintendo Online throughout this year. But there's already a whole bunch of them, but like make sure everything is available by the end of the year, and that could include Super Mario RPG. So that's one option.
I also I don't know if the rumor or the leak mentioned anything like this, so you can tell me if it does or not. But does it mention when it's talking about Super Mario 64? Does it mention which 64 version?
That's a fantastic question, and I do not think anyone has really assumed either one. My natural assumption is that it's going to be based off 64, right? I don't know though. Like, if it's based off 64 DS, that would be kind of cool. It's simply in the sense that there's more content there, right? Controls wise, I think it should play more like original 64, right? Just with some minor polishing. Honestly, I played it the other day, right, to sort of do research for a video, and I played on the Wii U Virtual Console with my Pro Controller, and it played pretty smoothly to me. I had really no issues with the way it was controlling and playing. So, but I'm good at Mario, right? Because I've been playing Mario for years. It might be that I'm just used to it. So maybe they do have to polish it up a little bit, right? So it's more mainstream. But otherwise, like, I don't really think the controls for Mario 64 need too much changes with the original version. A lot of people complain about the DS version because people use the D-pad, and that sort of created issues. The thing is that, like, I was one of those people that would use the actual thumb strap, right? So, and it had like a little piece of plastic, so it allowed you to use the thumb strap and put your thumb on the touchscreen and move it around comfortably and sharply, and that would be my joystick. They did give you that option there. So that made movement a little bit better in that way. It actually gave you some analog movement. Granted, touchscreen analog movement is not really as good as an actual analog stick, but
yeah,
it did make it more playable to me back then. So I don't know. And then at the same time, you have all the DS like touchscreen games and interactivity. Like, it's kind of hard to design or redesign or remaster a dual screen game onto the Switch, which is a singular screen system.
Right, yeah. I think a big reason why I was thinking about it was primarily because the visuals might be like, it's, you know, not N64 visuals. It looks a little better. I mean, it is a DS game, so it's not gonna look perfect, but it does have, you know, it does look a little better. Maybe if it's remastered, it might look even better than that.
It's like better and worse at the same time.
Yeah, it's a weird trade-off. Then there's also the fact that, you know, the game starts very differently. Like, you don't just play as Mario and then
start
go
off
around
as Yoshi.
Yeah, so it's a very, like, it's the same game, but it's also a very different game.
Super Yoshi 64. I like that there's the other characters, right? Like, if you can, I wouldn't mind it, right, if they were to somehow include the other characters in the remaster. That would be cool. And I guess part of my thing is that, like, while I would love them to do a whole bunch of like little changes and upgrades, I'm not expecting that much. Because what is the rumor referring to? It's not referring to just one remaster, right? We're talking about multiple in what I would assume would be a singular package. If that's the case, and if this is Nintendo, right, which historically most of their remasters are pretty minimalist, right? I think there probably isn't going to be that much new extra content per thing. So I'm not really thinking that we're going to get like all of the DS content remastered with much better graphics on top of a much better Galaxy and much better Sunshine. Like, I'm hoping that each one has a few quality of life changes and they spruce up the graphics a little bit for each one, but I am not expecting like a Crash Bandicoot kind of thing here. Although, honestly, Crash Bandicoot was three games, you know, so...
There's that, yeah. I'm thinking, in terms of Sunshine and Galaxy, I feel like, for the most part, I'm expecting just them, you know, raising the resolution on the games. Like, that's more or less what I'm expecting. Because I believe, I guess Wind Waker's a little different because Wind Waker had, you know, some quality of life changes with the Triforce pieces and all that. I feel like that's the most I can expect from when it comes to Galaxy and Sunshine. Just like quality of life changes with a bump to the resolution, and that's kind of just what I expect.
Yep.
I feel like 64 is the interesting one because I feel like because of how old that game is, you can't just up the resolution and then it'll be good, worth another $20 or be good enough. You know?
I'm in agreement with you. What I was thinking what they would do is that, have you played the Turok on Switch or the PC version of it?
Yes. Well, not the re-release. I played the original back then.
You played the original. So have you seen any trailers for it?
The re-release?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I heard about. I saw people talking about it, but I didn't. Really
I'll just explain. Basically, they updated the graphics. Like, it still looks like Turok on N64, but they modernized the graphics a little bit. Like, for example, it's all HD textures, right? Like, the textures are cleaned up a lot. It's not like it still looks like an N64 game, but a much nicer looking, cleaner, sharper N64 game, right? So there's no muddy textures, right? Everything's a lot sharper. I think they improved the lighting a little bit too. Can't say for sure, but there are some parts where I see like actual lighting effects, and I don't think lighting effects were really a thing at all in back then in the 90s. So I'm assuming they added that to the Turok game. So they updated the visuals in that way, which I would still consider that to be a little bit minimalist, right? Like, just I obviously make it at 60 frames per second, right? 60 frames per second, because we kind of should have that for 3D Mario games. 1080p, clean up the textures, maybe add a couple lighting effects here and there, right? And that's it. And that, I mean, I think that's a lot, but I think that's something that we could perhaps see.
Right. I feel like you have to do, maybe not just for us, because we're kind of like, I guess, Nintendo fanatics or fans, or whatever the case is. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you want to get the general consumer, you have to make the games look better enough to be noticeable to like the what is it, like the general public, basically, you know. So if I can look at the remaster and say, wow, that looks nice, like that looks good, then I think they did their job well. That's how I look at it. And if it's a remaster, there's some remasters that's released within the past generation or so that they don't look that much different from the original, at least not if you haven't seen the original in a while. So, you know, I just wanted to at least look cleaner and sharper so it's noticeable. Right. And I think, like, when you hear remaster, you kind of get the understanding, like, that's most likely what's going to happen. Like, that's like the bare minimum.
Right. Like, if it's actually remastered, it does have to be improved somewhat. Right. Yeah. So, like, would you consider what they did on the NVIDIA Shield for Super Mario Galaxy a remaster?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Have you seen footage of it?
Back when I first was talked about, I did, but I don't quite remember.
We can watch it.
I think that was running at what resolution?
I believe 1080p.
1080p. Okay.
So it was upscaled to 1080p, and as far as I know, that's pretty much what they did. They obviously changed around some HUD stuff so it can represent NVIDIA controls as opposed to Wii controls, and like they had to map the IR controls to an analog stick. But yeah,
but it works.
It worked, right? I think for the remaster on Switch, they could probably do like gyro controls and analog stick, and you can use that in conjunction to sort of give us that sort of infrared pointer controls. I think that'll work fine. But I think
like an option is definitely good, because I feel like over the years some people will like the motion controls and some people just kind of got
some people are gonna hate it. Yeah, there definitely has to be an option. I just want to show you So I'm gonna pull it up and show it everyone on the podcast. Super Mario Galaxy NVIDIA Shield. And let me send you a link so you can see it. I'm gonna send it to you on Twitter. The link. Alright, I'm about to put up the video, guys. Just give me a second. Just so you can see, get an idea of what... I feel like that would be the baseline. Like, whatever the remaster for Mario Galaxy will be, it will at least be the NVIDIA Shield version.
I'm hoping okay. I'm hoping the alternative to the motion controls are at the very least, like, found a way to kind of, you know, what's the word? Kind of like replace it in a sense, like kind of make up for it. But I want to know if it's intuitive, like does it feel good doing that? Because you could technically map anything to anything else, and sometimes it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that if that's the case, it doesn't feel awkward to do, like, controls wise.
Yeah, I've never played it on the NVIDIA Shield
Right.
version, right? So I can't really say if it's a good port or not. I mean, it seems fine, right? But
yeah.
I mean, there are definitely some things like mapping the spin button to a button. I imagine it's not going to feel as satisfying. But the advantage of the Switch is that with HD Rumble, that might make it feel a little bit more satisfying. You know, whenever you use the spin button, it would have to be a button, right? Like shaking your controller would be kind of weird. Maybe they offer both options, but I think
I would imagine.
Yeah,
I would imagine it would be both options. I'm also thinking that I think that you'll definitely have spin, you know, on a button. Considering I think 3D World did that when you played with Rosalina.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the footage right now. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm thinking. Well, first of all, it's gonna be 1080p on the Switch, right? This resolution is a little different, but you can see like the grass textures are a blurry little mess, right? That's something that you wouldn't notice in standard definition, right? Yeah. But when it's in HD, some of the bad textures are very obvious. So things like that. So basically, I kind of expect all the textures to be cleaned up for all 3 Mario games. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something they could do. I'm not sure what else really. That definitely 1080p 60 frames, and then clean up the textures.
That may really be all you need to do, right? Because it's 3 different Mario games, maybe more, but probably just I'm kind of optimistic for Galaxy 2, but I can see I mean, we're already getting 3, you know. But let's say this: if we get Galaxy 2 as well, that's 4 different Mario games, right? So at that point, like, it's 4 different games remastered. I don't think people will complain too much about not getting too much new content. We're getting 4 different Mario games in one. I mean, 3 is maybe already enough to make that argument.
Right. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Because I think when you have it at 3, you're going off.
I'm gonna stop playing to someone else's video on my channel. That is
okay.
Just for the record, guys. That is from Jesus. The video's not stopping.
Is it Digital Foundry?
Digital Foundry, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was on Digital Foundry. Yeah, I played that for like 3 minutes. Yeah. So I think I mean, like, what do you expect personally? Like, what do you expect, and what do you think we should get? Like, I guess those are 2 different things.
I think. Okay, I'm going off the idea that you're able to buy these games separately as an option. Okay. If that's the case, and we have 3 games coming, being 64, Sunshine, and Galaxy, if it was not an option to buy them separately, and they just come into one bundle, and you have to buy that bundle to get the 3, then I think more or less they can kind of get away with just up in resolution, and then that's it, because the value is in the collection of the game.
Yeah.
And you know, them being remasters.
Yeah.
But if you have an option to buy them separately, I feel like there might have to be a tiny bit of incentive for each one. Maybe not the biggest thing, like a funky mode.
Funky mode, because that's really big.
Yeah, I just feel like once you start trying to buy them separately, you have to convince someone why they would want to buy that one versus wanting to buy the whole. If that makes sense. because I think if it's one bundle, I think the value is in that bundle itself.
Yeah.
While if you buy it on its own, you kind of need something. That's why I liked when Bayonetta 1 and 2 had their bundle. You could just buy one of the Bayonetta games by themselves, but they added those costumes back when when it is the Wii U version.
Yeah.
So I feel like something like that, like a tiny little incentive, so that way like people who do decide to buy just one don't just have that and that's it. Like you can have a little something there.
So I have this idea. I brought it up in my video last week. Let me know what you think of this. Right. So let's say we get the Mario games. I hope Galaxy 2 somehow in there, but either way, right? We get a few more 3D Mario games. They all have slightly cleaned up textures, 1080p, 60 frames per second, right across the board, and obviously they have some minor optimizations control-wise. And we'll speak about specifically each one in a little bit in the podcast, especially Sunshine. I feel like Sunshine we got to kind of focus on that for a little bit, but let's say we get all that, right? And they give us a little bit more than that, right? And I'm not expecting more than that, like what I just described, quality of life changes, mapping the controls appropriately, slightly improved visuals, that's what I'm expecting. But if we do get more than that, one thing I could kind of see, as opposed to like getting brand new levels for each game, right? Because I feel like it's a little bit much, because that's like 3 different engines and going back to each engine, which are all old, and then sort of, no, I don't really expect that. But what I could maybe see happening, is we have a situation where maybe they can throw in like collectibles throughout each game, right? Which maybe is already too much, but like little coin collectibles or little stars. You know, like how there's like the green stars or the comet coins in the different Mario games? What if they threw in something like that for like the collection? Like there's things you can collect in each Mario game, and when you collect them, what it does, it unlocks something where perhaps if you get a certain amount, you can unlock an alternative skin that you can use in the different Mario games, right? Kind of like the Odyssey thing, but across the different Mario games. Or you get unlock like a piece of lore or like a developer like dialogue on like their perspective on developing the game at that point in history. So it's like an actual collection celebrating the history of Mario.
I think that sounds a lot like the Mega Man collections.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the collecting a thing between all the games, but the idea of getting like some kind of like old history or historic thing from the series past from like the 80s or something, and then showing it for the people who buy the collection. I think that's something they should definitely do, because I feel like especially when it's supposed to celebrate like an anniversary of a sort, that's the sort of thing that a fan really appreciates. Like someone who's really been following the series, they want to see that history. They want to actually celebrate that history. So yeah, I'm totally down for that. I think that's a great idea. I'm not necessarily sure about the collection part of it. I feel like maybe something like something like that's New York for you.
Yeah. Someone's not quarantining. Get them.
Oh god. But yeah, I feel like something that's more likely is probably something like a milestone. Something like, you collected this many stars. You got all the stars.
Okay,
64.
right. Because
then
then they don't even have to like add any actual specific new content to the game. It's just kind of more like an achievement for doing a certain thing, and then that unlocks more content you can see in perhaps like the main mode or something.
Yeah, I feel like that's just.
How do you feel about alternative skins added? You think it's too much?
I just don't know what. I mean, I don't know. I want to say yes, that it's cool, but I don't. Other than like screenshot purposes, I don't see. Maybe add a photo mode to every game so that the skins have a purpose.
I just mean like, what if the skin is like Luigi, right, or like Waluigi or Wario, or or Fire Mario? It's basically what they did with Odyssey.
Yeah, I just feel like Odyssey had, because it was a Switch game and you could take screenshots and videos and all that. There was like a lot more personality that you can showcase there. With the other games, I feel there's not much of that unless you add a photo mode and you add like a reason. I guess like it is gonna be on Switch, so it makes there's a
everything has a photo mode on Switch.
Yeah,
literally everything.
But I mean like a dedicated photo mode. You know how like some games they let you move the camera in any way.
Yeah, can you imagine being able to do that in a Mario? No, there's no way. I don't know. There's no way.
That's what I'm because like for example, a game I've been playing lately, Doom Eternal, right? Doom Eternal has a photo mode where you can change the skins on the fly in the photo mode.
That's interesting.
So if they had something like that with the idea that you're kind of bringing to the table, yeah, I can kind of see a reason for the skins if that's the case.
Yeah. So there's one thing I want to talk about. It's about the watermelon Mario. You remember that?
Oh yeah. It was like a promotional, maybe not promotional, but it was
an
like
image Nintendo posted on Twitter at one point, and we thought it meant something. It was like a whole new render of Mario eating a watermelon. So I want to talk about that, right? I think that's the kind of the direction I want to go in a moment. Just kind of because we're kind of like thinking about like potential new content, things like that. Like, what if that was related to something? We thought it was maybe Mario Odyssey 2. But before we do that, I think I probably should check in with the chat. There's quite a bit of conversation here. So, has anyone asked me any specific questions? Terry Severson, Super Mario RPG is not on the online service. Okay, thank you. I think Geno will be revealed in June during the Direct. That was meant for E3 as part of a 35th anniversary segment. Cool, that could maybe happen. John Goku, yeah, Mario All-Stars 3D is a better idea than a dumb entertainment systems app. Mario All-Stars 3D would be great, because that's literally what we're talking about. So, yeah. John Goku, the people that leaked the Mario remaster seem like credible people from what I'm hearing. Credible leakers are people that get stuff correct, and then there's other leakers that are fakers. JM, most believe it to be true because of the sources. Tigger, I love Winnie the Pooh. Maybe not that much. A little bit. I watched it all the time as a kid. When can we expect a Nintendo Direct for these Mario games? Do you think we could see one before June? I think maybe we could see a Mario Direct, but I first want to speak on because a lot of people are kind of questioning the legitimacy of this information. So I don't think everyone's aware just how credible these sources are. Like, these aren't 4chan leaks, right? It's like, firstly, I don't really ever personally cover 4chan leaks. I'm not one of those people who will look on a random forum like, oh, someone is putting their wish list and masking it as leaks. Well, let's read it and make a video just out of that. No, I don't do that. Like, it has to be some credibility to it before we even met to start talking about it. But this is not that. This is the opposite end of on the spectrum in terms of rumor, right? This is not even coming from someone. Like, for example, Shifty, I would say you're like somewhere in the middle, right? Like, you are an individual, you are a content creator, right? You have friends or people that sometimes share with you information, right? And based off their track records, you're like, hey guys, I got this information. It could be true, right? For example, you knew about Piranha Plant before everyone else, right? In Smash Brothers, right?
Yeah.
But then there's that, and then there's the people who literally work for places like Eurogamer or IGN or VentureBeat, which are literally journalists' companies.
They're press.
They are press. Thank you. And they literally have tie-ins with developers. They are talking to developers and publishers and executives every day within the industry. They have actual industry ties, and they will be told things. They will be shared information, right? So the people who came out and shared all this information about the Mario remasters wasn't just like someone who's like, hey guys, I heard something from someone. No, this is coming from press, multiple press sites, VentureBeat, Eurogamer, Video Game Chronicle, all these different press sites are talking about it. So it's pretty likely, right? But it's not 100%, right? Like, for example, Eurogamer one time talked about the Star Fox Grand Prix rumor. That didn't materialize into anything, right? So there's that. But at the same time, they also talked about Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. They had that as a report. It happened. They had a report about the Nintendo Switch being a hybrid system before Nintendo announced it. That happened, right? So they do get legitimate information, but again, sometimes it's not always 100%. But so still take it with a grain of salt. But this is, as far as rumors go, this is as real and likely of a rumor as it gets before it actually being confirmed.
I guess in terms of like leakers and that sort of thing, like being press is like being the top tier. There's like the top tier leaker is the people who have those connections on a daily basis and like on a professional level.
Right.
While you have people who are like me, they're just dudes who have heard things, like from the most part. So it's like a very different caliber when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And considering that, I also feel like when there's a lot of them kind of corroborating the same info, like they just kind of all heard the same things and all saying the same things. Like, I do think that means something. I'm not sure. I guess I've always been a skeptic, so I'm always questioning what I hear. So
right,
even if
I think that's healthy because, like I said, this is not officially confirmed information, right? None of this may come true. We have to always take that into consideration until it's officially confirmed. But I do think it's really likely because it's coming from press. Several press sites, not just one, several, right? And then the others are like, yeah, we also heard, like, I'm sure, I haven't listened to IGN podcast yet, but I bet they're also going to be saying, yeah, we heard about this. And actually, Emily Rogers, earlier in the year, said it was going to be a big year for Mario, right? And Game Explain's covering it at nauseum as well. Why? Because they probably also know it's true.
I also would like to point out that, like, in terms of the whole Star Fox Grand Prix thing, that could also be a situation of like, yeah, they technically did know something, they just didn't realize it was a Starlink thing.
Could be. That might have been the case. It could have saw something and then it made an interpretation and they were wrong.
Right, and sometimes it's not even the press that saw it. Sometimes they just hear about it from some kind of, developer who says they're working on this and it turns into something else and, things change.
That's true, right? It may not have even been that they interpreted wrong. It's just some things changed. Right.
Yeah. So, there's a lot of factors to think about when it comes to this sort of thing. But in terms of whether or not these particular people in press have heard about it, I don't think they're lying about it. The only thing that makes me not sure if it's happening or not is just, again, there's been a lot of things that people have heard. A million things that have been heard from multiple different leakers and press that just ends up not happening, basically. So I want to say this is gonna happen because a lot of reputable people are talking about it, and I want to say like, oh, I'm definitely looking forward to this and this is gonna be great, blah blah blah, but I don't want to get my hopes up for something that is not entirely confirmed. So just make sure you think about it like that. Like, it's cool to be excited for it, just make sure you're being excited for something that is actually coming.
Yeah. I guess it's a tricky situation in terms of, like, because everyone handles hype and excitement and disappointment and expectations differently. For me, like, I get excited about ideas and possibilities, but if one idea or possibility doesn't come true, that doesn't mean I get disappointed because there's another idea or possibility that I perhaps didn't see coming or I did see coming that comes true and I'm excited about that instead. Right? So I'm rarely like disappointed when something I'm initially talking about doesn't happen. There are some things that would have me disappointed though. Do not get me wrong, right? Like, for example, if Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't come out this year, I'm gonna be disappointed. Like, I'll be frank with you, right? And it may not come out this year, and that's fine. Like, I'm still gonna, whenever it does come, I'll be happy about it, but I'm definitely gonna be disappointed if it does not come out this year. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But point is, like, actually, I'll just say this right now, we'll move on. I think that if Nintendo wasn't prepared for the game to come out by this holiday, they should not have revealed it at E3 last year.
I think I agree, but it has very little to do with the games themselves. I think it's just like a philosophy I've had when it comes to E3 and just like directs and I guess announcements in general. I don't like hearing about a game like 5 years before, you know what I mean? Like several years before.
I don't think it's healthy for the hype cycle either, right? Like, you kind of, some people, I know people have canceled their pre-orders for Prime 4, right? Like, they're kind of just tired of waiting.
Yeah. And I don't know, because I'm not the type of person to wait. Like, if you tell me a game comes out in 3 years, I'm not going to pay attention to your game until it gets like really close to release.
Yeah.
Again, it's not even related to the game. Like, I could love Breath of the Wild, but if I find out that most of the time during the first Breath of the Wild's like development cycle, I wasn't even paying attention to it. I was just trying to distract myself as much as possible with every other game that was releasing, that by the time the game finally did release, it was only like a week later from.
There's less pain and suffering that way.
Yeah.
Right? I remember seeing like Wind Waker in magazines when I was a kid, right? Leading up to that release. And I remember at one point seeing, like, in 2002, oh man, Wind Waker, when did it come out? 2003? Oh, that's forever from now. And I was a kid back then, right? I was like, I was really young. But when I started really paying attention to, like, the internet and, like, looking at rumors and theories and news, like, every day almost, was a little bit later into the GameCube cycle, right? And that was when they started hyping up Twilight Princess. Right, like I saw that initial trailer back in 2004, and I watched that trailer probably like 100 times because it was incredible. Right, I got like a special like Game Informer disc that had like the top 10 most hyped trailers at E3, and it included Metroid Prime 2, Resident Evil 4, and Twilight Princess, which at the time I don't think we knew about the title, but it just seemed like the most amazing thing ever. Keep in mind that was shortly after Lord of the Rings, which was huge at that point, and Twilight Princess definitely had some inspirations from Lord of the Rings, at least with the trailer. So I was like all in on this. And I was just dreaming about this game, fantasizing about this game, theorizing, and just looking up every little piece of information about this game every single day. And as a kid, right, I can't get as many games. Like, there's just certain particular games I focus on. So for Twilight Princess, it was a long and arduous wait for that game. And it was a little bit painful, right? Because we just wanted more for that game, and we had to wait a really long time for it. So, you know, it was a little painful then. Now it's so different for me because, like, every day is something new to focus on. So the days pass, and when the game is there, and I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like I just kind of play so many things to kind of just distract myself from that wait, because waiting that long for a game, they announce it several years ahead of time. It's just annoying. I remember, I don't remember what particular game it was, but I feel like I remember watching some E3 presentations year after year and looking at some of the games there and just saying, I thought I saw this last year. And after saying that maybe 3 years in a row, seeing the same games at E3, it just kind of gets to a point where it's like, okay, how about you just release the game already?
Yeah, and actually to that point, Nintendo did skip an E3 for Breath of the Wild. I think that was smart, right? They just
I feel I feel like some companies need to do that.
Yeah, like at the time we were scratching our heads. We were like, hey, we were already seeing footage for this game. Why are you skipping E3? Because they didn't want to be redundant. They didn't want to show something. At that point, they were probably more well aware of where they were at in development. So they just wanted to, you know, not show us something and have us wait a really long time and be more excited about it. And so, bearing that in mind, I do believe that when Nintendo showed off Zelda last year, their intent was for the game to come out by the end of this year. But, you know, they didn't give us a date for a reason, because they weren't sure. Right? They're not going to completely sell themselves to that, because with Zelda, you know, sometimes things come up and like, hey, we got to move up develop the release date because we have another idea. We're having trouble with this mechanic. So there's things like that. And granted, I don't think they'll have too many issues with Breath of the Wild 2 because they already made Breath of the Wild 1. So they've it's probably going to be a lot smoother of a development experience, a lot faster and streamlined. So I do think it can make it out. But the other thing to take consideration is that the COVID-19 situation, right? Like, that can lead to delays. If they can't work, if the EAD team can't work, or the Molotov team can't come and help out, like, the game's going to take longer to be finished. So that may mean it won't come out this year. It may mean a lot of things may not come out this year. I'm hopeful that there's not that much of an impact. We don't really know yet because we haven't gotten information that really goes beyond Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. So we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. And that also includes the Mario Remaster stuff. We don't know when that's happening. I see in the chat that there's some speculation about a Mario Direct. If maybe. We only got a Direct Mini, so I do think there is a need for more information. So if they want to throw in a Mario Direct before, like, I guess our big E3, I guess I could see it. What do you think about that, actually, a Mario Direct?
I mean, it'd be fitting. I just don't know when that would happen. Because obviously, you know, E3 is canceled, but it's still going to have the digital event. So.
At some point. I don't expect it the same week, actually. Given how long they waited to have the Direct Mini this year, right, I'm actually thinking they're probably going to push things up a little bit.
Maybe because E3 typically was in June, so maybe instead of June, they might do it July.
Yeah, or at least just late June.
Yeah, maybe. Because I believe E3 was like mid-June. Like, it was always like the
first or second 15th. Week. Oh, maybe? You could be right.
I thought it was
earlier, maybe. But I could be mistaken.
I'm
You
not
might be
sure.
right.
Well, I'm sure it varies per year, actually.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, but it's more or less. I think it's more or less the second or third week, maybe. I'm not sure.
So E3 2019 was June 11th through the 13th.
Okay, yeah. So it's like the second week.
Yeah. So it's still in the first half of the second week, first half, but not right at the beginning. At least last year.
Yeah.
What was 8?
Okay. Yeah, so if that's the case, I could see like late June, early July, unless they whatever summer event they have, I could see them doing a general thing, obviously, for like whatever else they have coming out, maybe tease a few things that's coming out next year. But in terms of having a Mario specific,
I just checked the last 4 years. It was pretty much like the second week.
Oh, every time.
Yeah. Well, like 2016 was 14th through the 16th, so it was like literally at the midpoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the most part, it's second week.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have some kind of like summer digital event thing that has just it's whatever they were gonna do for E3, just here and how they would typically do it, I guess. But in terms of having a Mario specific thing, considering how much time is until it's only 2 months until June. Like I could see them not doing that anytime soon. Maybe after.
Well, one argument for it to be a little bit sooner than later, actually, just like a general Nintendo Direct, would be that the only release date we know about right now that's coming from Nintendo of like a big game is Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, and that's May 29th. After that point, we don't really know about anything. At that point, Nintendo kind of has to announce more, right? Kind of like what they had to do now, right? Investors meeting is coming up, and they didn't have any known release dates after Animal Crossing, so they literally kind of had to do something to give us information. They did, and they're like, hey, we're only going to tell you up to like the end of May, right? So we might get something like early June or like a couple weeks into June. So it may end up being, I could be wrong, we could be wrong, it ends up being like pretty much E3 time, because at that point there will not have been any other announced Nintendo games to come out, so they're going to have to make announcements before that or shortly after.
Right, and even the games that are, I guess, exclusive but not necessarily published by Nintendo, do we even have release dates for them? Like Bravely Default or anything?
Bravely Default 2 does not have a release date. I am sort of thinking, though, the Bravely Default 2 doesn't come out around the same time as Octopath Traveler, because they seem to be doing sort of like the same sort of setup. Like it was shown off earlier in the year. They announced a playable demo. People are going to play it. They're going to get people's thoughts on it, do some little changes and optimizations, and then come out the beginning of the second half of the year. I think it came out August or July.
Yeah, I remember it being one of those two.
So I see it coming out around late summer, just like Octopath Traveler.
Yeah,
but there is no set release date yet.
Yeah, I can agree to that, because I'm trying to imagine what the year setup could look like, considering the lack of news that we have right now.
So one thing. Go on.
Yeah, go ahead. Go on.
Oh no, what I was gonna say is that like if this Mario Direct idea or rumor, whatever I don't know what it is, but if there's a Mario Direct, I can see that happening before, say, Xenoblade Chronicles comes out. Maybe sometime later. I guess it would be towards the end of April, perhaps. Right? We get that, and that just sort of announces Nintendo's plans with Mario throughout the year. Right? That'll be really interesting to see, actually, because what that would do. That would perhaps give us a release date for something in the summer, and that might buy Nintendo a little bit more time before they have their big direct. Say, for example, they announce everything Mario during this Mario Direct, right? Like, there's still other Nintendo stuff, but they'll talk about that at a later date, right? So my idea, I had a predictions video for the rest of the year once we got the Mario rumors and the Direct Mini, and my thinking was that we'll still get maybe like a Bayonetta 3, maybe Zelda, but like at the very end of the year, right? If we're lucky. And what sort of ties us over till then are sort of smaller games and ports and remasters, right? So a lot of that could be the Mario Remasters 3D World Deluxe, right? Maybe Paper Mario, and they could maybe announce that at the end of May, or at the end of April, early May, and maybe we get a summer release date, like a June release date for Mario 3D World Deluxe, and then we get the remasters and Paper Mario later into the year. Just help like push the summer, like give the summer a little bit more something after Xenoblade, until Nintendo's ready to sort of fully flesh out their plans for the rest of the year.
Yeah, because I remember Octopath Traveler came out the exact same day as Captain Toad
Interesting.
So they could probably release one of those Mario games at the same time, or if not the same time, around the same time
right.
frame.
It's an interesting thought you had that, because I also, in my predictions video, I pretty much put, whenever there was a Mario game, I put it in the month where there's something else coming as well. Like for example, there's that. I'm glad you brought that up. The Captain Toad and Octopath Traveler came out in the same month. There was also a month last year where we got Dragon Quest XI, which was published by Nintendo on the Switch, and Link's Awakening, a week away from each other. So I definitely see a situation where if we have a lot of ports and remasters, that could be sort of put into a month where Nintendo's publishing something else that may not be like a AAA title, but maybe something a little bit smaller, like a 2D Metroid or a Paper Mario.
Right, yeah. Like, they could definitely do that. And I could see No More Heroes, if I believe it's supposed to release this year. I could see that being another one of those games where it just gets another game that comes out around the same time.
Yeah.
Because if you remember, like you said, Dragon Quest XI and Link's Awakening came out the same month, but so did Daemon X Machina.
Yeah.
That also came out the same month.
Right.
So
like,
I could easily... Yeah, like I could
there's
easily
a
see
lot
No
of
More
games
Heroes
coming,
3.
right? It's not going to be just one game every month. Nintendo, on average, they average over 20 published games a year. That's literally, it's impossible to have only just one game a month. Some of those games are like eShop games or smaller things like that, right? But there's going to be a lot of published Nintendo games. And there are some third-party games like No More Heroes 3 that Nintendo, while they may not like literally be the publisher, they're probably, some communications are probably gonna, hey, so like we'll put this here or something like that, you know. I could see some communication there, so they sort of space things out a little bit.
Yeah, like I could definitely see Bravely Default 2 having a game alongside it, and No More Heroes having a game alongside it, considering they're not really Nintendo games, but they're kind of being treated like they are.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see Nintendo just throwing in an actual Nintendo game along with.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo has to appeal to multiple audiences, right? So they're gonna have multiple different games. Like, if you're a Nintendo fan, that doesn't mean you have to buy every single game published by Nintendo, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then of course there's third-party stuff too. So, yeah. I see what you mean. I kind of agree. I do think one thing I did in my predictions video that I saw some people sort of questioning, and I think it's a fair question. I suggested that maybe we get the Mario remasters and a 2D Metroid in the same month, right? People were like, oh, that wouldn't be a good idea because 2D Metroid wouldn't have an opportunity to sell. You might be right, right? Whoever said that, they might be right, right? And maybe I'm wrong for making that prediction, but I also think like one could come out at the beginning of the month, the other could come out at the end of the month, and that wouldn't necessarily impact the sales too much, right? I guess the thing is that they're both like Nintendo-centric things, so like the core Nintendo fan base is going to want to get both of them. But if one's at the beginning and one's at the end of the month, I think that's enough space where sales aren't impacted too much. Yeah. I think, my opinion. I could be wrong, but
I'm thinking like just the end of the year is going to be just this long, arduous, just like not long, but this period of just like they just blast a bunch of games onto the final fourth quarter of the year. Because I feel like
they did it last year.
Yeah, like they've done it before.
Yeah.
So even if the beginning of the year looks kind of barren for some people, I feel like that's what's going to happen. I could see. I'm not sure about the Mario Direct thing. I mean, if it happens, cool, awesome, I would love it. But in terms of what's going on, because May 29th, Xenoblade comes out, right? And then June comes around. Hypothetically, if they do this presentation that was originally for E3 in June, suddenly we're getting not even like, but maybe like a week and a half later from one of their first party games releasing, where they're getting news about games. So I could see that being a general direct that probably mentions the remaster thing, and then maybe they announce, oh, July, here's a release date for Bravely Default 2 and Mario, 3D World.
Yeah.
And then they could say, oh, and in September, No More Heroes 3 and Mario Collection.
Yeah. And so I'm glad you said September, because September is the anniversary month. So I kind of see the remaster collection coming out that time.
Right.
Like if they're really all in on this whole celebration thing, I think that's when they would do it.
Yeah. And it's very possible you're going to see more than one game releasing. Like the idea of like, oh, they need a game per month is not really something that I don't think Nintendo actively looks out for that. I think they're trying to space out the releases around this time period, I guess. I feel like when the Switch first released, they were clearly trying to get a game per month.
Yeah.
And I think that was at the time just to gain momentum for the system, like as quickly as possible. The game's constantly coming out. But now I could see July or August getting. I want to say July more so though. Getting 2 games. I could see August getting like 2 or not August. September getting like 2 or 3 considering their collections.
Yeah.
And No More Heroes 3 specifically, that comes out whenever. I feel like No More Heroes 3 can come out whenever, and it wouldn't really make a big deal, honestly.
Yeah, and another thing to take into consideration is that, especially with Nintendo games, they are typically evergreen products, meaning that they have a continued selling power, right? Like they don't have a short lifetime of sales. They will continue to sell for years usually, right? So sometimes for Nintendo, it's just about getting them out, and once they're out, they will just be games that will sell. Like that they're just, even if, you know what I mean, like they're just going to continue to sell. Once they're out, they're just there and available. And then Nintendo just wants to get as many games available on Switch as possible.
I also think something that could be really cool for the collection that just came to mind is having a mode that just times you, because the speedrunning community in Mario games are insane.
Oh, I had that idea too, actually. Yeah, like, well, how are you thinking of it?
I'm not exactly sure about the specifics, like the details, but I know I want to see some kind of like, not, I guess you could say like a speedrun mode or a timer mode, where they just, instead of having like, just get rid of all the cutscenes, whatever cutscenes there are, just instant skips them, and then you just go from star to star or shine sprite to shine sprite, and just go as fast as you can from beginning to end, and just try to beat it. And then you could have your times up on a leaderboard, have your friends' times up on there. And who knows, maybe because I think some games do this. I could be wrong, but I feel like I remember seeing an indie game someone did this, where you can keep a specific time that you want to beat on screen while playing, so that way if you beat it, you would know immediately.
Ooh, okay, I like
having
that.
To go and check.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, that's not, I don't think that's crazy. That premise is almost kind of like in a variation of like the Daredevil comet, or it was one of the special comets in the Galaxy games where you had to beat the level in a certain amount of time, right? So it's like basically you have to do the level again, except this time the twist is you have to do it faster, right?
Yeah.
So just literally doing that basically gives all the different remaster games like more content, because it's like, oh, now we have an opportunity to sort of replay each level, and it's a bit more of a speed run. So doing what you're saying, like cutting out cutscenes and stuff, that's very interesting. And my idea is not too different from yours, actually. It's just kind of like a combination of it. So I was playing the Galaxy games, and I noticed that each level has like a timer, right? And you can, if you go back to it, it's already there. There's already a score. So if you beat the time, it will be replaced, right? You have a time score already. But basically, having that time score for every single level and every single Mario game in the collection. And yeah, you have leaderboards, online leaderboards to compare with your friends. And to your idea of like maybe having like a literal like visual indicator during the actual level, so you're aware of the time run, that would be cool to do as well. Maybe it's not something that's available in your first playthrough, but it's something that's available in your second playthrough, or it's something that you press like in the selection screen, right? Because all of the Mario games that levels we're talking about, they're all like, it's not like Odyssey, right, where you just kind of fly in and you collect multiple moons at a time. So that structure would be different. But for 64 Sunshine and Galaxy, you have a level select screen. So maybe you could just press like minus or something, and that opts you into the time run mode, where you have the indicator on top of your screen. Because not everyone's going to want to see that timer when they're playing.
Yeah, they're not going to want to see the timer. And I'm also thinking, because let's say, hypothetically speaking, you and I are competing for the best time on Mario 64, right?
Yeah.
And we keep seeing each other like, oh, he beat my score. I just passed him yesterday. What's going on? So maybe you can have it so that you specifically choose your friend, so you can see his score while you're playing, so that way you know if you're beating it or not.
You know what this reminds me of?
It's like a tracker.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. This reminds me of what they did in Mario Odyssey with the Luigi Bloom world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be just like that.
It could be just like that. Heck, what if they throw in Balloon World? They do both.
I mean, they could.
They really could. Like,
they could.
Why not?
I also think it would be funny if they make Luigi and the balloons match the geometry of the games themselves.
Yes. Oh, that would be sick. They should totally do that. I mean, they've played around with the idea before in Odyssey, right? Like, you had the 64 costume, for example, and you could run around as blocky Mario 64. that
Right.
I love this idea, right? It kind of just fits into our whole perspective, like our different ideas we're talking about, like the alternate costumes, the timer, all that stuff, different stuff. But on the note of Odyssey, I'm bringing it back to what I mentioned earlier, the watermelon render. So let me pull it up for you guys, so you guys can just see it. Mario watermelon. That comes up for sure. Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, and this is, yeah, all right, I'm pulling this up. All right, there's nothing weird on the Google search. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm pretty sure you guys can see this on stream, right? Yeah, you should be able to see this on stream. So this is the Mario render that came out last year, right? And when this came out last year, speculation went crazy because we were all thinking, oh man, guys, that is an Odyssey style render of Mario, but set up for the beach. Does this mean Mario Odyssey Sunshine DLC, right? Or like a Sunshine remake in the Odyssey engine? Like, that was the kind of speculation we were getting. This is officially from Nintendo, right? Like, even here you see Nintendo UK on Twitter. Like, this is an official render that came out from Nintendo, one of Nintendo's Twitter platforms or Twitter accounts. It's kind of interesting to me because we never really saw what that was for, right? It could be that it's just some leftover concept art from Mario Odyssey, right? It could be a hint towards maybe Mario Odyssey 2 in the works, right? It could be, perhaps it was a hint for what we're going to get this year with the remaster collection, right? What if they have these, this is related to different concepts they're using for the remaster collection. Maybe there is more Odyssey style changes for these remasters. What say you?
I think that'd be cool, but I feel like that's a lot more work than what's being talked about now.
Oh man,
like
I'm right there with you for the record. It's just kind of like,
yeah,
it's interesting that render's there though, you know?
Yeah, like I think at most this could at most be considered a hint of a Sunshine remaster, but not necessarily like, oh, it's gonna be an Odyssey engine or something like that. Because I feel like that's a lot more work.
Because
than
the
what
thing
it
is,
sounds
if you do Sunshine in the Odyssey engine, well, if it was just one of them, I could see it, right?
Yeah.
But if it's 3, no, no way.
They've sold remasters for $60 that did way less than that.
Dude,
I have a hard time believing they'll do that for 3 of them.
They've done worse than that. Okay.
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze came out in 2014 on the Wii U. It was available for $20 on the Wii U for years, right? And they sold on the Switch for $60 years later. Its initial to make this even worse, the initial release for Tropical Freeze on the Wii U was $50. 4 years later, with basically no new content, they made it more expensive. Granted, there are certain changes. I'm not saying it's still a great package. Tropical Freeze is one of the best games out there, and it's a game that's made portable, and that value right there, there's value in that. I'm not saying if you didn't play Tropical Freeze, it was still worth it, but point is, it didn't cost Nintendo really much at all to make that game in the way they did. They just added another playable character that made the levels easier. They didn't recreate too much. There were a couple little animation things they sort of fixed up or changed around a little bit, and I think the game was at 1080p as opposed to 720p, but that was it. There was no other changes to the game.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I have a hard time believing it, but I mean, hypothetically speaking, if we lived in a world where they did actually do that and they made 64 look like Odyssey, and they made Sunshine look like Odyssey, and they made Galaxy look like Odyssey, then okay, that's probably going to be the best bang for your buck kind of collection that Nintendo has done in.
I would pay $100 for that. Easy.
I can't even name what would be a better collection that they've done before, because that would top it.
I would say the best sort of remake or repurposed content we've ever gotten from Nintendo is going to be Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition.
And even then, to me, that's not the same, because that's a full remake.
Right.
So
one game, but it's getting it's getting a whole other chapter though with Future Connected, which I think is amazing. I did not expect that, right? Obviously, I thought it was implied in the first trailer, right? And we were right. Yeah, future connected, right? And that's to me, it's looking like it's gonna be kind of like Torna. You think it might be a little bit smaller than Torna, but like along those lines.
If it would be cool if it is as big as Torna, but I could see it being a little smaller than Torna.
But still, probably at least like 10 hours of gameplay is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, like I think it's gonna be a good chunk of gameplay, and if you've played the Xenoblade games, you have a pretty good idea where that's probably gonna go.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't have the right words to say, but I'm excited for it. It's my most anticipated game right now. That's all I know.
Xenoblade, right? Oh yeah. No, I'm
Xenoblade
right there, man.
Xenoblade Chronicles 1, bro, is my favorite JRPG of all time. That's it. It's the #1 game. I know I've been on this podcast before kind of ragging on 2 a little bit, but that's not because 2 is bad. It's just...
I think Xenoblade 2 will like...
Again, I'm not saying Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is bad. I'm saying
we're on the same page. We're on the same page, right? And I think I have a little bit of recency bias, which maybe has Xenoblade 2 a little bit closer to my heart right now, right? But Xenoblade 1, yeah, no, that game is the GOAT, right? But
like I respect 2 and X.
I think all of them are really good, right? I just feel like Xenoblade 2, it gets a little bit of a bad rap from some people who are like anti-anime. But I think some people were turned off by the anime aesthetic to it, which I think is really unfortunate. Well, one, I'm a big anime fan, so it doesn't turn me off at all. If anything, it's like it's a plus for me actually. But like I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has a really, really powerful story.
Yeah, I feel like the story in the first game and the characters are just so much more, at least in my opinion, memorable, and like I connected to them a lot more. And the story, like you said, is impactful. It's just a very good story. If anyone in the chat or anyone just in general is playing Xenoblade Chronicles for the first time with this remake, do not look up anything. Just the game is full of all these twists and whatnot. I feel like a good portion of the enjoyment is that experience.
Well, each game is like, yeah, it's like diving into this giant epic novel or a long epic TV or anime series, right? Along with having an epic, massive, open world adventure,
full twists and turns and plots and
awesome music.
And that's the one thing I'll give to Monolith that has been consistently amazing throughout all of the games.
Yeah. How do you feel about
the
X?
music has always been.
X was like, kind of like, some people didn't like. I like X, but it's definitely different.
Here's what I will say. I've compared. This is gonna sound like a weird comparison until I get into it. I see X as the Skyward Sword kind of game to me, where it's like I like Skyward Sword when it comes to Zelda. I like Xenoblade X when it comes to Xenoblade, but I like them for different reasons. I normally like the games they come from. If you get my drift. They're almost like opposites.
Right. Like Xenoblade X and Skyward Sword did things a little bit differently, and you like them for what they did differently, not for what they didn't do the Xenoblade aspect as well in Xenoblade X, where they didn't do the Zelda aspect as well. Like,
yeah, but
I know what you're getting at.
Yeah, they both excelled. I feel like at the things they wanted to accomplish that was not necessarily the norm for their respective franchises.
Yeah, I one thing that I think is kind of like very clear for Monolith Soft and the Xenoblade games, one thing they've always gotten right is scope. Each game has tremendous scope. And it's also, I think it's amazing because the Monolith Soft team is becoming one of my favorite Nintendo teams. I want to point this out. They helped out with Skyward Sword. They also helped with Breath of the Wild. Monolith Soft have a big influence on the overworld for Breath of the Wild. What is Monolith Soft best at? That I just say? Scope. They made the amazing Xenoblade world, amazing X world, and 2 world. All of those have huge scope. Breath of the Wild has the greatest scope ever, right? So, yeah, they're special for scope.
I feel like the combination of their music and, again, like the scope of their worlds and how big and I don't know how much you can explore of those worlds. So it makes those games so memorable to a lot of people. I feel like the first time you step into certain locations like Guar Plains or Noctilum in X, it's just you kind of just get this big rush of just
Noctilum.
so good. The track in Noctilum is amazing.
Yeah, Yeah, it is. It's
so good.
So actually, I rewatched the ending for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 last night. I almost cried. Like, it was just beautiful. Like the music for it at the end is just so powerful. And yes, I'm working on a Xenoblade video because I'm doing research, rewatching all like the footage and endings and beginnings and stories for all the Xenoblade games. But I want to check with the chat real quick. A few people added me. So Nexus added me. Mario All-Stars contained remakes that shared the Mario World style. Combined with that watermelon image, I think these remasters could share the Odyssey style. So here's the thing, right? Like, I love the idea of this. I think there's definitely sense made there. I think what you're saying is logical from a certain perspective for sure. It's just the other perspective is how much work it would take to do that. That I just don't think, I do not expect that. Like let's hypothetically, let's say Nintendo has not been working on Mario Odyssey 2, and instead what they've been doing is using the Odyssey engine and remaking 64 Sunshine and Galaxy in the Odyssey engine. If they started when they finished Odyssey 2 in October 2017, I guess if they're remakes, it's possible, but if you're using the Odyssey engine, it's almost like making 3 new games. You know? I mean, they're not. A remake is not as hard as a ground-up new game usually. Yeah.
I think the problem is I don't know how much time that would necessarily take. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Like, maybe instead, right? It's not that they're remaking everything in the Odyssey engine. If they're doing that, okay. If somehow this remaster collection is each of these Mario games in the Odyssey engine, and they have like new content and all the like it's everything we could have possibly imagined and more, that would probably be like the only thing besides say, like, I don't know, like Metroid Prime 4 that would quell my depression of Breath of the Wild 2 not coming out in 2020. Right? And for the record, I do not believe Prime 4 is coming out like that. I just don't think that's at all likely. So that would be amazing. I just think it's too much to expect for a remaster. I mean, that's the thing. These are remasters, not remakes, right? If the rumor was saying remake as opposed to remaster, then I could see like, okay, maybe you're right. But there's a common phrase. The truth is often somewhere in the middle. Like, what if it's not so much that it's being remade in the Odyssey engine, but maybe there is something to this Odyssey idea. What if there is going to be some Odyssey elements that will be employed throughout the different games? So the visuals will be spruced up for each one, but not to the point where they're redone in an entirely different engine. But maybe they have some Odyssey ideas, like, for example, like the costume idea for Mario Odyssey, spraying that out in the different games, using that idea right there, right? Maybe they could add like a little cappy mechanic to the different Mario games. That would be kind of neat to see as well, something like that, right? Maybe, heck, if anything they could do, they could maybe add a couple extra levels or something. And I feel like that's already asking too much. But if they did that and those levels were Odyssey-esque, maybe something there, maybe. Like, there's different things that they could do to give it like an Odyssey sort of aesthetic, right? But not go full-on Odyssey remake.
The closest things I can think of is one of two options. Either they make Odyssey DLC that correlates with the remasters, where they release the remasters and then Mario Odyssey has DLC where like, oh, Sunshine themed clothes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
The second thing that comes to mind is they do add some kind of level where it's like one level or something per.
We also talked about the
game.
Balloon World time trial thing, right? Like, that is taking ideas from Odyssey. If they employed that, that's another way they could sort of share that aesthetic.
Yeah, because they did add. I mean, it's nowhere near as much work as like adding a level to like Mario 64 of all things, but they did add New Donk City levels to Captain Toad when that re-released.
Right, but that was one game.
Yeah, and it's also
an engine that they've been using lately, right? Like, the other issue is that Galaxy 64 and Sunshine are all on completely different engines from years ago, right? So they have to kind of either repurpose the engine or go back to the engine and like I don't know if Nintendo would do that. And I'm not a developer, so I don't understand how hard that would be, right? Or maybe like they don't, they may not have access to it. Like there's so many different variables there. It's hard to say. So if that happens, dude, Nexus, you got it. But I don't expect it.
You know what would be something interesting? And this is not a common feature, so I'm not expecting them to do it. I just think it would be something that's kind of cool. There was a re-release of Killer Instinct back on the Xbox when they first released them. And something they did that was interesting was that they had two versions that whenever you launch the game, the updated one and the original one. The updated one fixed a bunch of bugs and glitches that the game had. The original kept all the same bugs and glitches that fans remembered from the original, so you can use those.
Because there's a time trial community, like the speedrun community, they may, yeah,
so, we want to go through 4 parallel universes in Mario 64. We want to, maybe everyone wants to, right? But maybe you'll have 2 different leaderboards of one that is original and updated. I don't expect it.
Yeah, I don't expect it either, because that's not something Nintendo has done in the past.
Yeah,
but it is something they could do, because you're right. Like there are other developers who've done something like that before. So. Yeah,
and it's just something that I feel would be very fan servicey for certain speedrun communities, especially Mario 64, which everyone has memed a bunch with their glitches and bugs that kind of like speed up the game like a ridiculous amount. But that also begs the question: will Nintendo be fixing glitches and bugs from those original games, or will they be keeping them the way they were?
Well, perspective here. Wind Waker HD has like an entirely... I don't know that much about the speedrunning community when it comes to Wind Waker, but I know enough to say that the speedrunning options and strategies for Wind Waker HD and Wind Waker are different, right? So some tricks that work in one do not work in the other. So sounds like
updated then, if that's the case.
Yeah, I anticipate that little kinks in the code and things of that nature will be sort of fixed or covered in the remasters. Yeah.
Right. I feel like it's something I don't expect Nintendo to do, because Nintendo's very, they like their games being well polished, and seeing glitches like that.
So exactly. So if there's some sort of crazy thing that allows you to kind of like glitch through the ground and go through, they're not going to do that. Maybe it does depend though, because sometimes they are purists about it, and sometimes people consider that part of the experience and they don't want to take away too much from it, so they might just keep it as it is. It's a little bit of a gray area. So another comment here, Anthony Mason, he added me. It was the same for Lego City Undercover. It was $20 on the Wii, but sold on the Switch for $60. I'm pretty sure it's in reference to when I was talking about Tropical Freeze. Yeah, so Nintendo has been known to do things like that. Did Nintendo publish Lego City Undercover? Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
That game came out on other consoles, yes or no?
It did, but so did Dragon Quest XI. That didn't stop Nintendo from publishing it later on.
True.
It's not clear just from a quick Google search.
I see. Yeah, I'm not sure who published this. Was it on? It's odd.
Nintendo's web. Publisher Warner Bros. Entertainment. If you go to Nintendo's website. So.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I'm looking at. Okay, I found it. What it is that Nintendo published it on the Wii U, but Warner Brothers published it everywhere else, including the Switch.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
So Nintendo originally published it, but then when they re-released it later on, Warner Brothers.
That makes sense. Yeah. Here Cool. So, moving on. Anthony had another @ Speaking of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, if we're getting a character from Orange for Fighters Pass Volume 2, do you think we're also going to get Rex Empire in the pass? Yes. What do you think, Shifty?
I've said this before. At this point, I'm cool if whoever gets in.
Yeah.
Like I don't there's only like maybe 2 characters I could say that if they got in, I would be genuinely hyped to the point of like yelling at the top of my lungs, which would be Travis Touchdown or Doom Guy.
Yeah, those would be sick.
Either one of those 2. If either one of those 2 made it, I'd be screaming. But in terms of Rex and Pyro, yeah, I'd be cool with it.
I'd rip my shirt off. Okay, I might not actually rip my shirt off because I wouldn't want to ruin my shirt, but
you'll put on a shirt that you don't care about just to rip it off.
I should start doing that for whenever I watch the Rex in preparation. Yeah, I might go Super Saiyan. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Like I think because I like Xenoblade too, so I'll be happy with it. The thing is, I was also like one of 5 people who liked ARMS. So I was actually pretty happy about.
It has a bigger community than that. It's like 10 people.
It does. I like self roasting a little bit here.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I actually did like ARMS, and I have like 60, 70 hours on that game, I think. And so yeah, I was like probably the only person I personally knew who was pretty excited and happy to see an ARMS.
Oh, I was. So for me, I've talked to you about this before, but I always felt like we needed more Nintendo characters in the Fighters Pass, and now we've gone back-to-back Nintendo character announcements. My perspective is that it does sort of suggest more Nintendo characters for this second pass, right? It's still a small sample size. We just have 1 for this pass, but I think it might be like at least a 3-3 ratio, maybe a 4-2 in Nintendo's favor. We'll see.
Yeah.
And in considering that, I think if there's gonna be more Nintendo characters, that means more chances for Rex and Pyra. I also think that because Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is coming out now, and we're getting this future connected thing, I have a video sort of where I'm gonna be going into speculation about this, right? But future connected, that could go in a few different ways. It could just be talking about how Shulk has the ability to see the future, right? It could be relating to the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which this is a soft spoiler, so I'm gonna give you 5 seconds to run away, but it's not gonna really ruin the story for you, so I don't think you need to. But okay, there, that was a spoiler warning. All right. So basically, at the end of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, it is alluded very heavily that when the world of Xenoblade Chronicles was created by a great cataclysmic universe-creating event, it created parallel universes, and there is a counterpart to the universe of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which is the universe of Xenoblade Chronicles 1. They are deeply connected, to the point where there's like literally like a person who's split in half, and he's sort of in 2 different worlds for both games. So there's like a rift connecting them. Right, and also in the Xenoblade 2 DLC, they had a DLC where they literally played with that idea where Shulk and Fiora and Rex and Pyra fell through parallel universe rifts and met together at a midway point between both realms. So my point is, if you watch the Future Connected trailer, there are what appear to be like rifts, like connecting parallel universes. So it might be the case that it could further connect, right, Xenoblade 2 and 1, right? And maybe Shulk's vision power somehow played into that as well, so that name is referencing both ideas. Obviously speculation, right? But I think by connecting the games a little bit more, it does sort of strengthen the idea that Rex and Pyra could be characters that could represent the entire series a little bit more. And Nintendo has been proven that they are going to use the Smash DLC to push their series. They very clearly did it for Byleth, because guess what? The day of the Byleth presentation, what else did they have? They had the Fire Emblem DLC trailer, right? And then for ARMS, what happened? We got the ARMS Open. There is the ARMS test trial or free trial for Nintendo Online members. This is all announced the day or around the announcement for ARMS Smash DLC, right? Like, it's all clearly marketing. I could definitely see a situation where Nintendo will use another Xenoblade character to push Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I think Rex and Pyra are the best bets, but maybe it'll be someone else. Maybe Melia. Melia is, I think, an interesting character because she is getting a strong representation in Definitive Edition. She's like the main character for Future Connected, so that's a possibility. But the Fighters Pass basically includes main characters, so I'm assuming Rex and Pyra have a better bet than Melia.
Yeah, probably. I just No, yeah, I would imagine so. Because I was thinking, how would Rex and Pyra connect? Unless Rex and Pyra shows up in Future Connected.
Yeah.
I could definitely see.
Not like they'll be playable or anything, but at least like a cutscene or something that.
Yeah, like they're featured.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Obviously, it's speculation.
But yeah. Like if that's the case, then okay, yeah, I could kind of see it.
Yeah,
and it would.
I'll make the argument that even if that doesn't happen, a Xenoblade character would still help Xenoblade games sell.
Yeah.
So, I mean, because you still have Torna, right? You have Xenoblade 2 on the Switch already. Like, having the DLC come out still pushes those games, and it also pushes Definitive Edition. Like, they all sort of push each other. So...
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea if they also release, like, some kind of demo for the game that they're actually from. Just so... Because I feel like there might be these... Maybe it's not a huge amount of people, but there might be, like, some people who say, like, oh, I want to play the game they're from.
Right.
Maybe they're already playing Definitive Edition and they want to play the game that, Rex and Pyra come from.
Yeah.
In this case. So I think a demo or something like that would be kind of ideal.
That could be the case. The other thing that sort of makes me think that Rex and Pyra are a good bet is because they initially... Sakurai said it himself in the Final Smash Direct. He thought about adding Rex to Smash Brothers, but there was a time issue. That was his reasoning. He literally apologized for not having the character as a playable character in Smash Brothers. He said it didn't happen due to time constraints. But we're now in the second volume of the Fires Pass, and we're getting characters that didn't make it in due to time constraints, like an ARMS character. And actually, I saw Computer Robots ask this question. It just sort of rolls into this next idea. He was asking, which ARMS character do you think is most likely to make it in Smash? Shifty, who do you think is the most likely ARMS character? I think it's probably a mix of characters, but at least Springman, given that he's the main character in the game, and maybe Ribbon Girl. But maybe even like multiple odd costumes of other characters, like kind of like Hero or Koopalings.
Yeah, I'm not sure because every ARMS character plays like they don't play the same. They play.
I've seen that argument. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I mean, you could probably make color variations because they already have their own color variations in the actual game.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see them doing that. I could see them doing, if they have Springman, I could see them doing Springtron as a costume because they are very similar. Like they do play differently in the actual game, but they are similar enough that you could kind of just palette swap.
I could see at least. Well, I feel like Ribbon Girl and Springman, and I haven't played as much ARMS as you. I understand that they play differently, but I feel like they can sort of combine their mechanics into one character. Like, for example, Ribbon Girl's double jump. Well, guess what? Every Smash character has a double jump. So,
And like, she also has a fast falling mechanic, which everyone in Smash has a fast falling mechanic. So
yeah. I didn't know that, by the way.
Yeah,
next time I play ARMS, I'll try to do it. Okay.
Hold the charge button. You'll drop down.
Okay, that might help me out.
But I mean, there's also the argument that because they had their Party Bash, which is like their little community tournament series that they had, and they had like this character versus this character, pick who you want to win, and then they kind of just did a tournament of all the characters, and eventually one character out of the entire roster ended up being the most popular, and that was Min Min. So I've seen some arguments that because Min Min's the most popular, they might go with her. But it would be a
change of pace.
It would be. Also, I've also seen, my opinion, this is not what I expect. This is just what I think would be cool. I think it'd be cool to have the villain of ARMS instead of the main character.
Whoa.
Dr. Coyle. I think because I love Dr. Coyle's design. I think she looks cool. And I don't know. I feel like because Springman, I know Springman's an assist trophy, so I know I've seen some kind of contention with that whole thing.
Well, that's the interesting thing, though. Right, because this could finally just prove this whole premise that assist trophies can't get promoted, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot riding this in terms of Smash speculation. If we get Ribbon Girl Mii costumes for sure, which puts Rex and Pyra right back into the conversation for literally everyone, right?
I will say this, in my personal opinion, I think Mii fighters never deconfirm characters because we've had characters who are already in the game have had.
Yeah.
So I never really looked at it as something that deconfirms a character. Assist trophies though has a lot more of an argument there because we haven't really seen that before.
Right. No, so my thing is at the moment if we see, so for base roster, right, any if there's an assist trophy for it, there will not be a playable character for it, right? That's my perspective. But here's the interesting thing, I think, about the DLC. We're getting more DLC for Smash than ever before, right? Because the only previous other game was Smash for Wii U and 3DS. But this ARMS character feels like something we would get for the next Smash, right? I feel like instead of getting another Smash Brothers a couple years from now, what's going to happen is that we're getting these 2 years of DLC, and then it's actually 3 years of DLC or something, right? Because we're going until 2021 by the time this ends. Yeah. 3 years of DLC, right? And we won't get a new Smash for years. But what's going to happen is these DLC characters kind of will be like a second Smash game, another Smash game's like characters. Like, so the characters we thought we would have gotten, we didn't get a base roster, we felt like, oh, we were disappointed about, but then for sure make it for the sequel, like an ARMS character like Rex and Pyra. These feel like characters that we're getting in this DLC. Does that make sense? I feel like I worded myself in a very roundabout way, but
no, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think if that's the case, I could see it being a controversial one. Only because you would think Nintendo characters in a Nintendo game would make sense, but for the Smash community, it doesn't for some reason. So
I was imagine... the Byleth thing makes sense because there's so many Fire Emblem characters like that backlash a little bit, but I feel like people really just bought into the idea that it had to be third party, like had to. I don't, I'm not. I was saying that I don't think it has to be third party, guys. There's no rule about it, and now, obviously.
I think if you want to be technical, like there is no rules in general for the most part.
Really
other than like the only one you could really say that is technically a rule is the one rule that Sakurai actually did mention, which was the whole has to be a video game character thing.
Yeah. So I'm seeing I got a super chat here. This is from Emery. The mere fact Springman is on the list with other ARMS characters to me confirms that they consider assist trophies free game. Let me read that again. And thank you for the super chat, by the way, Emery. The mere fact Springman is on the list with other ARMS characters, to me, confirms that they consider assist trophies free game. That's an interesting point, actually, because in the announcement for the Smash kit, they showed all the ARMS characters on screen, right? They weren't like X, Springman, right? So in other words, Nintendo intentionally left him on that screen to have him in the conversation for speculation as a character. I think it's an interesting point.
They could easily also Springman's the playable fighter. What do they do? What do they do with the assist trophy then? Oh, just model swap it with Ribbon Girl.
Wait, repeat that.
I'm saying, like, let's say the playable fighter is Springman, right?
Yeah.
Then what's the solution for the assist trophy? You can't have fighter Springman and assist trophy Springman. So what do? They're probably just gonna model swap it, like just swap it with Ribbon Girl
when he's there. Right.
Yeah.
Or it could just be that maybe that assist trophy just doesn't show up when someone picks an ARMS character.
Maybe it could also just be that the Ribbon Girl assist trophy acts the exact same way as the Springman one does, so they just replace it.
That could be the case.
Because keep in mind that they have replaced spirits before, like spirit battles, where let's say like they have a character that better fits a previous battle. They've done that. They have updated spirit battles to have different characters represent them or different spirits represent them. So if they can update previously established spirit battles, why not be able to update previously established assist trophy?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I could see that being something.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not the solution they would think of, or maybe they don't even think the solution is necessary even.
Right. They might just think, just put them in there. Why does it matter? Right.
Yeah, like they might do that.
I mean, for example, when you use Toon Link in the train stage, Toon Link disappears.
Yeah, that's the only argument I can see as to why Sakurai would change it, though, considering he does seem to care about that sort of detail.
Yeah, I've also heard that the Dracula assist trophy does not work in the Wii Fit stage because it's the mirror.
I'm not sure if that's the case or not. Does he? Is he even?
I feel like it would make more. Did I say Dracula?
Yeah.
I meant Alucard. I mean, for those who don't know, Alucard is like the reverse of Dracula.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like it would have been more. I could be getting the facts wrong here. Maybe he's allowed it, and it's just that his reflection doesn't show, which would make more sense because he's a vampire and they don't have reflections. But moving on to chat here, let's see if there's anything else. Let's see. I got a couple more ads here actually. So, Alexander Christopher Hernandez. To be fair, whenever it gets in Smash in these times where negotiations may be hard to take place, are welcome with open arms. Arms? My most wanted is Yuden still, though. Who's Yuden? You know who Yuden is?
Let me see. Where is
Yuden, Alexander?
Max Brass would be hilarious.
Oh, is Yuden the main character from Dragalia Lost? Okay.
Oh, is that his name?
Apparently, yeah.
I played Dragalia Lost.
I played Dragalia Lost. Names.
I renamed him. If it's the main guy that I renamed him, as far as I'm concerned, his name is Shifty. So I don't. I'm not really
there's even like this
with
image of like Yuden like as a Fires Pass concept. I think it'd be, first of all, people would be pissed because one, it's a mobile game. Two, it's another anime sword fighter. But I'll say that if there's any Nintendo mobile game Smash representation, it's totally gonna be Yuden, right? Like if there's any, that is the bet. I'm not sure we'll get a mobile game representation in Smash, but if there's any, it'll be Yuden.
Yeah, I would think so. It's the most successful original game.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. And I thought the music for that game was great, so I mean,
it's a good game.
Oh yeah, I'd be fine with it. Nexus added me. Gino or Waluigi DLC to coincide with Mario Anniversary hype. Waluigi would be anti-Mario Anniversary hype. That would be Waluigi Anniversary hype. And this would be the first anniversary. It would be the people will celebrate the anniversary of Waluigi getting into Smash Brothers, moving forward from the day that Waluigi's announced for Smash Brothers. So
I feel like it'd be better if it was like some kind of like Paper Mario thing or.
Yeah, I think Gino makes more sense.
That too, yeah.
Especially if there's some sort of Mario RPG or Paper Mario tie-in. But we'll see what happens. Computer Robots added me. I prefer Max Brass in Smash. Max Brass. Max
Brass does have some personality. He's like a very buff Captain Falcon. Although, I mean, Captain Falcon's already kind of buff, but you know what I mean. He's a big guy. I would just like to see. I just feel like Dr. Coyle, the villain of ARMS, if anyone who hasn't played it, but I just feel like Dr. Coyle is a character that would be very unique for Smash as a whole. It'd be a female villain. It would be an ARMS character. I just feel like her design is very different and very unique looking. I mean, I guess technically every ARMS character would be, but I just think Dr. Coyle just would be a character that sticks out. But again, that's my personal.
You said sticks out. Sticks out. The puns, man. So like, it's one. Honest, my perspective is I don't think the characters having different like stats and abilities makes it too hard for them to sort of create a situation where they have a multiple alt skin kind of character. I think they would have to be selective. Like some characters wouldn't really fit like the hitboxes. Like for example, Master Mummy? Like he's too big, right? Like you can't have him be an alt skin for Springman, right? But I think it could be a situation where like they sort of combine the abilities from multiple characters into one character, basically like what Byleth is, right? Byleth is the 3 house leaders and Byleth in one character, right? Yeah. So I totally can see a scenario where they could do that for an ARMS character as well, and then the alt skins are kind of different characters, but only the ones that would make sense with in terms of like having them have a similar shape, right? So like the normal humanoid characters, like was it Min Min, Twin-Twirl, Ninjara, Rimagirl, Springman, like those characters.
Yeah. It's also technically what they did with the Belmonts anyway. Like the Belmonts kind of did
they made them echoes, but yeah.
Yeah, but right? what I'm thinking is that their move, like if you take the entire moveset of the Belmonts, neither one of those two characters did all of the things that moveset does.
Right.
So that's a combination of.
So then you would agree there's at least precedent for it.
Yeah, because it was done with the Belmonts.
Yeah.
Because to my knowledge, I don't remember there being a canon Castlevania game where Simon did all the same moves as Richter, and Richter did all the same moves as Simon. They had their own things for the most part.
Yeah. So
At most, they had the same weapons, but that's kind of it.
right. So I mean, yeah, I can see. I still see a situation where that could happen. At the end of the day, though, it is harder to make a character that has different models and then have the hitboxes sort of match up, even if they are like a similar shape. So maybe it is a better bet to just have it be one character, or at least, or bitch does two, like a Ribbon Girl Springman or something like that. Yeah, so it's like, so you're saying you want what's her name, Coil Woman lady?
Yeah, Dr. Coil. I would like the villain. I want the villain. Give me Dr.
That's what you want, but what do you think?
I think the most likely to actually let's going with the idea of there being palette swap, like skins for each one, or like costumes of the characters. I would imagine Springman, Ribbon Girl, and Min Min being the most likely. Primarily because the first two are basically the main characters, and Min Min is the popularity one.
So if they were to do Springman, Ribbon Girl, and Min Min, don't you think there maybe should be a fourth one? Maybe Ninjara?
Yeah, like I'm not sure who the fourth one was. I just feel like those three are like the most likely.
I feel like Ninjara matches them in terms of shape, kinda. I mean, the way he moves might be a little different though.
Yeah, I mean, it also
Twintail fights with her hair instead of her hands, so that so it might be harder to make her fit as an alt costume, right?
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, I'm not sure. I would imagine 4 would make sense. I just don't know.
I think it has to be something even. The only way it's odd if it's just 1. It's either 1, 2, or 4. Well, I guess theoretically it could be 1, 2, 4, or 8, but I'm not gonna go for 8. Yeah.
Ninjara would probably make the most sense because everyone else either has a drastically different body shape,
right,
or is technically cheating. if you imagine, say, Springtron specifically.
Okay.
Because he's literally like in arms, and in the game itself, he's practically an Echo Fighter. He has like one different thing. He has like a few technical things.
But do you think people would be happy with him? Well,
people aren't happy that our arms characters in at all, let alone Springtron.
Just pulling up this screen right here just to sort of look. Yeah, right here. Just looking them over. What's this guy's name? The one all the way at the right. Was he a DLC?
Who?
The tribal-looking one.
Oh, I forgot his name. I know who you talked about. He body type wise, he's a little bigger than the ones we mentioned.
What about man, I don't know the characters' names. The gelatinous one.
Oh, Helix. He could work. I think it would just look a little odd. I think he could work, but like animations wise, he would look very odd acting like the others.
Okay.
Because I don't know, like his animations and arms, he's very weird. Like he's stretching more than just his arms. Like he's stretching his entire.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's got to be human. If they were to go that route, it would be humanoid characters. I just think it's interesting that they would show all the characters on there, right? Like they had to have known that by doing that they were gonna fuel the fire of speculation, right?
Yeah.
So do you think it's gonna be a scenario where maybe there's multiple? So like maybe what happens is they show all these characters, and like all these characters are represented in the DLC in some way. Because like we've seen precedent now that they have all the characters show up at least in the stage somehow.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll do that.
I could see it being a situation where you're fighting on either Spring Stadium, or there's like another stage that is kind of like the final fight stage.
Yeah.
I could see the stage being one of those two places, and maybe seeing like maybe a fight in the background, or maybe seeing like maybe they join, Hazard, so they'll join the fight themselves, and you'll just see
that'd be cool.
Max Brass punching you in the head or something, and just that sort of thing.
That would be
Yeah.
one way to employ the characters, represent them, and sort of it all makes sense. Because I do think it's weird that they showed all the characters in that presentation.
I
or
do
that
think the
little
most like obvious thing they could do with the stage itself is have the stage drop the same items that drop when you're playing arms.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, because
Okay.
they have healing that drops. They have special meter like potions that drop.
And there's little like bomb things you can like push,
Yeah,
right?
they'll drop. Yeah, and I feel like all of those things would probably happen on the hazard regular version of the stage, and maybe like some springs that just kind of pop you up or whatever. If it's Spring Stadium specifically.
That makes sense. That makes sense for sure. So, let's see. All right, we're winding down the podcast now, guys. So, got any final questions? Make sure to at me. I just want to see in the chat because there's a lot of things you guys brought up. It's kind of hard to get to all of it. Let's see here. I think Hacker added me. This year is Waluigi's 20th anniversary. Well, could be the year. We'll see.
I'm sure. I'll go with that.
So, Shifty, let me ask you this question on the note of anniversaries. So, I'm a proponent for Breath of the Wild 2 making it out this year, but my reasoning is that my only thing that makes me hesitant is the COVID-19 situation, right? Do you think, given that next year is Zelda's 35th anniversary, that they're just going to use Zelda to push the 35th anniversary?
I think so.
Yeah.
I have a, again, maybe it's me being a skeptic and me being kind of pessimistic on it, but I don't think Breath of the Wild 2 will release this year. I would love to be wrong because I clearly love the game and I want to play it. But
and when it's ready, it's ready.
Yeah, but when it's ready, it's ready. And I just feel like that's probably next year.
I'll agree that the game will be out by next year. In other words, if it comes out this year, that's still true. I
mean, hey, if it does, I'm excited. I'll pre-order the special edition. I have the Master Sword on my table right here. Yeah. I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be on there.
I'm just curious about your perspective because I feel like a lot of people put a lot of stock into anniversaries in terms of sort of like thinking when a game's gonna come out. But I'll argue that if you're gonna assume that Breath of the Wild 2 will come out next year because of the 35th anniversary, you should then also assume that Mario Odyssey 2 is coming out this year, because that would be a fair equivalent.
I think I'm not sure if it's a fair equivalent because Mario Odyssey 2 hasn't been announced. I think that's where the difference is. I think it's the fact that we know Breath of the Wild 2 is a thing and it exists and it's coming makes that comparison make more sense because we can base it off of something that is tangible.
Right.
But knowing that we don't know for sure that Mario Odyssey 2 exists in any capacity, so it's kind of harder to say that it if it happens it'd be cool, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily call it a equivalent comparison.
I understand what you're saying. There are definitely differences. So I see what you mean. My thing though is that I feel like Nintendo, or really most developers in general, are not going to curb their development cycle to sort of match up when their game should come out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think if Zelda's ready this year, Nintendo's not going to save it for the 35th anniversary, delay it 6 months just for the anniversary, right? I think they're going to have it come out if it's ready. If it's not ready, it's not ready, right? That's different. But if the game is ready, the game is ready. I don't think they're going to change around their development for that game just so it can come out for 35th anniversary. I mean, if you look at the big anniversaries, right? First of all, the big anniversaries come every 5 years, right? So that literally means like if games take 2 to 3 years to be made, every other game is a part of a big anniversary potentially. I don't think developers are going to really care too much about that. I think what you do instead is that you do little things, right? So looking at what the rumors are for this year, right? We probably would have gone to Paper Mario anyway, right? So don't think that Paper Mario is coming out just because it's the anniversary, right? Mario Remaster Collection, that is remastering old content, right? 3D World Deluxe. 3D World Deluxe is also remastering old content. It's not bringing on a whole new game. And if you look at the different anniversaries Nintendo has had, there are exceptions, like for example Skyward Sword, right? But they did some other stuff. They had like the whole, like, what was it? It wasn't Hyrule Historia, was it? It was Hyrule Historia. I think they released for the 25th anniversary. They actually revealed the timeline for Zelda's 25th anniversary. So they did something special for that, right? But my point is, in general, though, anniversaries don't yield the next main installment for that series.
Yeah, and that I do agree with. That's something I definitely agree with. I don't think developers necessarily look at like 5 years ahead of time and say like, hey, 5 years from now is going to be the anniversary of this IP. We should really start working on something.
Yeah,
like chances are they're all constantly working on something because they're a company and they need to release products. So I don't see anniversaries having that much stake in it. At most, like maybe they'll work with for Zelda, they worked with Dark Horse. They got the Hyrule Historia to happen. Something like that, yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What I think what they'll do is that, let's say Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't make it out this year because of the development, right? It's just not being ready, not because of trying to make it fit for an anniversary. But what happens is, if they find themselves in a situation where their release schedule is basically on track to be around the 35th anniversary date, then they do something. Right at that point, they like think of a way to sort of connect the release of the game with the anniversary. They have some sort of marketing for that. At that point, they do it. Right, but if the game is ready before, the game's ready before. If it's not, then they tie it into the anniversary.
Yeah, like I think if anything, the part of a company that cares a lot about an anniversary is the advertising and marketing side of it. Because if Breath of the Wild 2 comes out this year, they'll just market it as they usually do. But if it does happen to come out on the anniversary, yeah, they're gonna mention that. They're gonna sell it off and mention it. Maybe they'll have like an extra little thing here and there to celebrate it. But they're not gonna work slower on Breath of the Wild 2 just to get it released that period. And they're not gonna have a game finished and just put it in a closet and just wait for the time to come. They're gonna release it when it's ready.
Well,
or
there are some games supposedly that have been in a closet for a long time, like Metroid Prime Trilogy and Pikmin 4.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So, but
just not Breath of the Wild.
Not Zelda. Mario and Zelda, Nintendo's like pumping them out whenever they're ready, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too dependent on that.
Yeah. JM is asking me, did you pre-order the second Fires Pass? I haven't yet because there's nothing that I really need from it yet. There's the Mii costume, so I didn't care for that Mii costume. Shifty did though.
Yes, I did. I did it instantaneously. I did it instantly because I have over, I think, 1,070 hours on Smash Ultimate right now. So I know I'm going to be playing the game. I've been doing it since the game released. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be making content about the new ARMS character and all these other characters.
Yeah. For me, like, I'm just going to pay for it when it comes, right? Or what I'll do is I'll pre-order like a few days before, right? Just because I just don't need to. They just don't need to do it.
I'll ask you this then, because I'm kind of like, when it comes to my friends, I'm like the Smash guy. Like I'm always doing Smash related things. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense for me. I guess it's expected of me to do that.
Right.
But I know you more so as like the Pokemon guy. So I have to ask you, did you already buy the expansion pass for Pokemon?
Nope.
Oh, okay. So it's just me then.
Yeah. I don't consider myself a Pokemon guy, right? I consider myself a Nintendo guy. So I have a deep love for Mario, I have a deep love for Zelda, I have a deep love for Metroid, I have a deep love for Xenoblade, I have a deep love for Pokemon, a deep love for F-Zero, and Star Fox.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah, I know.
But because it's like, I don't know. I guess like my mindset is like, I already know games and I already put a lot of time into them, so I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be playing that DLC when it releases.
Right.
So my mindset is just like, if I have the money now and I'm not buying anything and nothing's out, I'll use that time to
my
get
thing is that it's purely, I am 100% plan on buying it. I'm just a procrastinator. Like, I'll buy it until I need it. Like, so for example, I did buy the first Fires Pass early. Why? Because I cared about that Rex Mii costume.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you pre-order the Xenoblade work set?
I want to, but I think it's probably too late.
Damn. Because I want you to know, I woke up that day when Direct just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Like I know it was like rumored and stuff, but you know, it just sort of dropped.
Yeah.
So I woke up and the first thing I saw was people talking about there was a Direct. I watched the Direct. The second that limited edition went on screen, I closed it and I went straight to Best Buy and I pre-ordered it. I want you to know, I went straight for that thing.
So you're smart. I'm done. I'm done.
Depends on who you ask, but yes, I would like to think so.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, make sure to show it to me when you get it, at least.
You might be able to find it, not through a scalper. Let's not do that. But you know, you might get lucky.
Yeah.
You might get lucky.
Hey, I see Kazoo is here in the chat. What's up?
Hey.
Well, I see some discussion about how long the Switch could last. Let's see.
Lifespan.
Where does it start? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where to start, but I'll just start here. Hacker 2077. A normal console generation is 6 years. Not for Nintendo. Theirs are shorter. It's weird actually, because the GameCube came out in 2001, Wii came out in 2006. So that was 5 years, right? Game Boy Advance was like 3.5 years or 4, because Game Boy Advance came out I think did it also come out in 01?
I don't remember.
I don't know, but the DS came out 2004, holiday 2004. So it's you know, a little strange. The Wii was 6 years.
The original Game Boy lasted like forever though, didn't it?
Right, it was like through the 90s, but it had multiple. It had the Pocket, it had the Game Boy Color.
But that's where my argument is going to stem from. I think it totally depends on how much they try to keep it going with different models and whatnot.
Well, like what if the Switch is the new Game Boy, right? Where like there's these different revisions, and some of these revisions are actually like spec upgrades, like significant. Like the Game Boy Color, I would consider a massive spec upgrade over the base Game Boy, right?
Or it could be the next DS, where you have the next system just be like essentially that system again, but like with a lot more things added to it. You know how like DS had DSi,
right? Yeah,
idea, all that stuff, and then eventually 3DS came around. So I could see like that also being the case if they want to like, you know, keep that same like factor.
And on the same train of thought of DS and 3DS, they had longer lifespans than most Nintendo systems, and the Switch is kind of a combination of that. And given that we're already seeing revisions, and there's still the rumors of Switch Pro, probably not this year though, given that Nintendo said there wouldn't be a revision this year. They like assuming it comes next year. I could see that the revisions really pushing the lifespan a lot for the Switch.
Yeah, that's what I think it totally depends on. I think it just depends on like how much Nintendo wants to keep that sort of that I guess the hybrid form factor, and how many models they come out with it. And considering how successful the Switch is, I could see them going down that road. Maybe not exactly like the Game Boy, where it's technically really the same system, just upgraded through time. Maybe at first they might do that, but eventually I could see them doing the next gen system,
and it's just backwards compatible.
That, or it could also just have the same form factor, like the Switch, like a DS to a 3DS, or a Switch to whatever the next thing is. When you
say same form factor, does that mean new games still play on the old system?
I'm thinking a transition like the DS was to the 3DS.
Well, because
so yes,
that's the
in other words.
Well, no, because the 3DS does not play on a DS. A 3DS game cartridge will not play on a DS.
No, but I'm thinking like forward thinking. So I'm thinking like if it's a DS to a 3DS kind of transition, I would imagine Switch games play on like whatever system would come afterward. But it would have the same hybrid, you know, console form factor.
Yeah, Switch games will play on the new system, but the new system's games won't play on the old system.
I feel like that's a possibility.
Okay. I think that's a possibility too. Obviously we'll have to wait and see, right? But it kind of depends. Like if Nintendo gets themselves into a situation where they're sort of launching a revision like every 2 years, right? Because we got Switch Lite last year, right? It's looking like Switch Pro will come out next year. Right, we'll see, right? And if that's the case, we're kind of on a 2-year time span. So what if 2 years after that, then it's like the system that is like the actual full next-gen upgrade, right? If we're at that point, maybe Nintendo will consider, well, if we're just having multiple iterations, maybe we just have all games playable like it's just Switch is just still Switch. Like that doesn't change. It's just better versions of Switch.
Yeah, I would just imagine that considering the success of the Switch, they would want to keep the general like pull from the Switch. You know, the hybrid nature of it. Because like the two ways I see them going about it is either the Game Boy, where they keep essentially the same exact system but with different iterations all through like a decade or so, or they do a DS to 3DS kind of transition where it's the same form factor and more or less the same idea of the original, but with a bunch of new things added and is essentially a new system.
Yeah, like Street Pass.
That is an idea.
I'm just saying, Street Pass is not on Switch.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it should technically be possible, though. Maybe it isn't. Maybe the Bluetooth technology doesn't work.
It probably is possible, but maybe they were thinking like, oh, it's a little bigger, so maybe there won't be as many people with it.
Yeah, that could be the case.
So the big portion of the Street Pass was the whole like, what was it? I don't know what you call that thing. Was it the walking coin things, the play coins? I think it was.
I didn't Street Pass that much, so.
Yeah, well, when you're New York, you Street Pass in Manhattan and you full up your plaza in like 5 seconds.
Well, that's the thing though. Like, so like, I don't like going out that much, right? But occasionally I do, right? Sometimes it's just going out like a normal human being. Other times it's like a big tournament or some sort of convention. And when those events happen, yeah, there's tons of street passing happening. But what happens is that I would go into my street pass, I would see like 100 guests and be like, all right, I'm done. Just close it. It's too much for me to deal with.
I think they even had didn't they have like I don't know if it was a subscription service eventually at some point for Meat Plaza that they made it so that you can just like yeet all of them into like another category so you could keep bringing in more people.
I should have paid attention long enough to do that because I didn't.
Yeah, that was the thing. And I think there was like people in the Nintendo NYC like community of the people around the Nintendo store basically, where they would have that and you don't really need to walk. You just sit in the store for like 5 minutes, you fill that up and then you just keep it going.
So it might be neat to see Street Pass come back. I'm just trying to think, like, obviously better screen, better graphics, maybe a better infrastructure for like online voice chat, things like that. Actually, I talked about this with my friends the other day. So one like improvement I think they could do that'd be really interesting, that I think would be huge, is the ability to have it. So it still comes with a dock, right? But the dock's a little bit more fully featured now, in the sense that it has some strong Bluetooth technologies or wireless technologies, kind of like the Wii U. Do you see where I'm getting at here? Where if you're too lazy to go dock, you boop. Yeah, you can cast your Switch gameplay through your dock. That way you can still hold it and not get up.
I think that'd be an idea. I
feel like that would enable dual screen gameplay too. For DS and 3DS Virtual Console.
I also feel like for a system like that, something I don't even like, since we're going into hypotheticals about like whatever system comes after the Switch, I would like them to adopt the same thing that the next gen Xbox is doing, where controllers on the old system works on the new system.
Yes.
And I know like Wii remotes, did the same thing from Wii U.
I think they should still have a newer version of the Joy-Cons that are more refined, and a new Pro controller that has an audio jack, right? Yeah. But maybe have a little peripheral for the current Switch that has, or you just that version so you just don't have an audio jack, and if you want an audio jack, you buy the new ones.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because the Wii controllers did the same thing. The Wii controllers to the Wii U, you could just use them. It wasn't really like any peripherals needed or anything like that. Same thing happens with the Xbox. I would imagine the same thing happens with whatever system comes after the Switch. You just plug them in and they just work.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'd be missing the new features, but that's really it.
So I see some interesting questions in the chat. So I'm gonna read a couple things from Tigger here. So first, Tigger said, "I feel like they have more first-party content for the Wii than they are doing for the Switch. They're making a lot of third parties and JRPGs for the system they need for first parties." I think Nintendo overall has a lot more games and content, first party and third party, than ever before. Period. I do think we're going through a little bit of a dry spell right now for Nintendo, but so is the rest of the world, so I'm going to cut them some slack. So, yeah, I mean, you can just count by the numbers. I'm pretty sure the Switch has more games. It's just kind of a fact. You could like the lineup for Wii better. Yeah, that's more subjective. So, to figure out another thing, though. Will Nintendo make another system after Switch era ends, or will they move on to mobile? They will not move strictly onto mobile. I mean, we don't know that for a fact, but I feel like that's pretty likely. The Switch is gonna be the most successful console ever. I actually think I heard recently that in terms of sales, like overall sales, the Switch has already surpassed the Wii.
Yeah.
Now, to be fully clear, that doesn't mean the Switch has sold more systems than the Wii, right? But in terms of overall sales, including like software sales and all that other stuff, the Switch has sold more than the Wii. That's saying a lot, right? And the Switch still has a few years left in it. I mean, we're at least at the half point. We could be not even the half point. We'll see, depending on how Nintendo revises the system. So I think we have a long Switch era ahead, and considering the Switch is going to be maybe the most successful Nintendo system of all time, that doesn't really suggest the opposite for Nintendo in terms of going away from systems.
Yeah, I feel like I don't see that happening at all. Even during their low points with the Wii U, like they still went and made another.
Right. I think some people might see the argument that mobile games are really cheap to make and they have high reward, right? Like you can make a lot of money off them with some questionable, like, sort of economic systems in place there, but that's how it works. So a lot of analysts, when they just look at the numbers, like, hey guys, easier to make, quicker, cheaper budget, makes way more money. Math says we should just focus on this, but those people don't entirely understand everything, because there's this thing called like brand recognition, right? If you continue to do that, you know what's going to happen? One, it's going to saturate. There's that, right? Where if there's just everything, not all companies are going to succeed in that way, right? But also, like, if Nintendo just starts doing that all the time, you know what's going to happen? People are going to stop caring about Nintendo. If the quality of their games decrease, Nintendo fans are going to disappear. So the quality is still going to be there. I think we're still going to have those big epic things. And in fact, Nintendo's finding a way to make that more profitable now. Look at every Switch release. Pretty much every Switch release across the board sells better than whatever its counterpart is on other systems. They've clearly figured something out here. Sales have been improving on Switch. They are trending upwards. Their strategy they're doing right now is something they're gonna move in this direction of Switch, which is hybrid gaming, right? Legitimate video game, like the console experience, wherever you are. That is gonna stay at least for the next generation after this one, at least.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, because they're not doing bad by any means. They're very successful with the Switch, to the point where apparently they're outpacing the Wii in that certain regard. So I could, especially when you think about like Wii to Wii U, it kind of seemed like they were trying to continue that same path they had with the Wii. You know, the Wii was successful, so they were kind of trying to do that again.
They tried, but they failed miserably. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, Switch, they did something new. Wii U didn't work out. Okay, they do something new with Switch. It's working out. It's doing well. Patterns, you know, patterns are not exactly the most perfect thing to use to predict, but if it's working, why stop?
Right. I think what Nintendo needs to do, and I think they've shown, they've sort of changed a lot about their strategies now, I think, right? Like now, it seems that Nintendo is more focused on innovating through gameplay with their games, and when they want to innovate with hardware, they sort of do that separately. Like look at Labo, right? Look at Ring Fit Adventure, look at this Lego Mario thing. Like they're finding other ways to innovate in that way, right? But they're handling it separately from their main game business. Like on the Wii Day, all their sort of weird innovative ideas, they sort of forced that into their main core games, and fans didn't like that, right?
Yeah.
I think Nintendo lost a lot of fans. I mean, I think they've regained them now, but they've lost a lot of fans, core fans, during the Wii era because of that. So I think now Nintendo sort of separates that, because they sort of learned that there has to be a separation there. There's a way to still do both, but it has to be done more intelligently. And I think that's what the Switch is doing now. I think the strategy they got with the Wii worked out so well. They thought that doing exactly like that was going to work, but they weren't realizing what it was costing them. And those costs led to the Wii U, right? Hurting their core fan base, creating something that just seemed like a gimmicky mess, just for the purpose of sort of recapturing that Wii magic. It showed, and Nintendo learned that lesson, and now they're sort of taking what they learned from the Wii and the Wii U, and I think they sort of fine-tuned what they should do moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's why I prefer the Switch over both of those systems.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Not even because of, like obviously like the Switch has a lot of great things going for it. But even if I just like ignore that and I just kind of criticize the Wii and Wii U a bit, there was so many times I remember wanting to play a game on the Wii and just not wanting to do this or all these motions with my hands. Sometimes I just, I worked a 10-hour shift. I want to lay down on my couch and I want to play a game and relax, and I can't do that if the game expects me to just do this motion multiple times. Like it's.
But I love where you're going with this. It kind of combines both with what we're talking about. So the interesting thing that's ingenious about the Joy-Cons, you can do this if you want to. You have that option. But you know what else it does? Instead of being forced to do this and being uncomfortable, you can play like this. Right? It's both spectrums. It's both sides of the spectrum that they are mastering with the Switch. So
yeah,
it's amazing. I think Nintendo figured it out. So I think this is a new era for Nintendo where they're gonna kind of dominate.
I think that's exactly why I like the Switch. Like, say what you will about the Wii. I'm sure there's games on the Wii that everyone has loved, but the Wii, for that reason, was probably one of my lesser favorite Nintendo systems. Not because the games were bad, but because it just didn't have a lot of.
It wasn't core centric.
Yeah, it wasn't.
We were missing a lot of typical third parties that we even got, at least on the GameCube. A lot of games had a very casual focus on the Wii. I think I took a little bit away from the experience. Not in all cases, but in some cases, yeah. And sort of shoehorning in like motion controls for the pure purpose of proving that it would work. I think that hurt them. I mean, that philosophy, like the sort of even went into the Wii U, and Nintendo, Shigeru Miyamoto was determined. I love Shigeru Miyamoto. He's done some great things, but I think the whole idea of trying to prove that Wii U could work, that it was innovative, led to Star Fox Zero being terrible, right? And it's not actually terrible, but it definitely had a huge. It's considered a very dark spot in Star Fox history for a reason.
Yeah, I just feel like the Wii U was an era of they just didn't know what the fans wanted or liked, or they just weren't very connected, at least not as much as they thought they were, because Star Fox Zero is an example. I mean, there was many announcements during that era that people were not exactly fond of. Federation Force, or that, what was it, Amiibo, Animal Crossing Amiibo?
Right.
Was it Amiibo?
Oh god, Amiibo Festival. Yeah, that was terrible.
Festival.
I think part of the situation was that we started getting stuff like that because, like, it was a combination of things, a lack of awareness, things like that, but also that they started giving us cheaper, lower budget projects because they already knew where things were headed, and they were focusing their development efforts on the next generation system.
Yeah. Which is for the best considering what it became. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I mean, just to kind of go to show what we're talking about, that Nintendo understands things now, right? Like, we got a lot of more casual things on the Wii and Wii U era, but on the Switch, we got exactly what fans have been wanting for years with both Zelda and Mario, right? We wanted them to go back to that open world style. They did it. And both Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild are going to be the best selling for their genre and series. Like, when I say genre and series, I mean Super Mario Odyssey is going to be the best-selling 3D Mario of all time, and Breath of the Wild is the best-selling Zelda of all time.
Yeah, and then you can go even further and mention how Smash Ultimate is the best-selling in its
Smash
series.
Yeah,
and technically speaking, the best-selling fighting game. Period.
Which is incredible.
Yeah, they're very successful. In other words, in terms of this, and I see them, how exactly they do it, I don't know, but I see them wanting to keep this momentum going as long as they can.
Yeah, and yeah, it's gonna be great. So, I mean, just to close things out, cool. I'll read this one comment from Nexus, and I'm gonna ask you a couple things, Shifty. Nexus added me. There were certain Game Boy Color games like Crystal that didn't work on the original Game Boy. How long until we see Switch games that don't work on older models? That's a great question. I'd say we have at least another 3 years. At least, could be more.
I'm not sure, because I feel like I want to look at how long it took for other consoles to get a game like that. Like, you know, compare it. But I feel like I'll say this.
It may not happen at all, though, because like Microsoft is adopting a strategy where Xbox games come on every system. Like if you have an Xbox 360, not 360, if you have an Xbox One, right, it's gonna play Xbox Series X games.
I think what it is that if these rumors about a Switch Pro is accurate and there is a Switch Pro, I think when that happens, you might start seeing that. Might. Keyword on might.
Yeah.
Only reason why is because they've done it before, multiple times. But have they learned anything from that? Do they want to change that?
I think they're gonna change that because when they did it with the new 3DS, it did not do well. They had two games and they stopped. They stopped for a reason because they realized the fans did not like it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, technically, if they do it again, it's not exactly out of character, but I'm not too sure if they will want to. But I will imagine, like, I can't imagine a reason other than there's more powerful hardware for that to happen. Like, if the Switch Pro doesn't happen, let's say that's not a real thing, let's say, or maybe it is and it just doesn't happen, whatever the case may be. If for any reason the Switch Pro does not happen, I don't see any games like that ever releasing for the Switch.
Yeah, I think you may be right. So, because this was supposed to be more of a Mario remaster sort of focused discussion, do you have any final thoughts on this remaster, Shifty, before we call it a night?
I will say that if it's real, I'm buying it day one. But if it's not real, then I'm sad. But no, but I mean, it'll be cool. I'll be there mostly for Galaxy and 64, to be honest. I'm not too fond of Sunshine, so yeah.
You're wrong. Actually, we didn't talk about Sunshine. So, how do you think? What would they have to do within reason to make you like Sunshine more?
I don't know, honestly. Because I just was not a fan of the flood mechanic as a whole. I felt like the flood mechanic kind of broke pacing more than it made it fun, if that makes sense. Like, I feel, because I like 64 and Odyssey and Galaxy mostly because the movement options keeps the flow going. And you can have, I mean, maybe not so much Galaxy, but Odyssey and 64 definitely, like, there's a lot more, the movement feels more free. Like, you could just move and you're constantly moving. You don't ever really stop unless you want to, like, do a backflip or something. Or change direction and then for any reason. But Odyssey has so many options. Like, I feel like Odyssey took that kind of movement and just kind of like,
it's so fluid. There's so much you can do. Yeah, I do feel like Odyssey is like a perfection of the mechanics.
Yeah, that's why I love Odyssey as much as I do, because to me, if I'm not having fun in a 3D platformer in the action of actually moving, then I'm not having fun the majority of the time I'm playing the game.
Right. I feel like even 64 had a flow to the movement, and I think Sunshine has a flow to the movement as well. But I'll say that maybe some of those mechanics are not as fine-tuned as some people would like. So I think some things they can do to adjust it for Sunshine. People complain a little bit about the camera. Modernize the camera, right? So that's one thing. I think now we have a much better handle on 3D cameras. Sunshine is a successor to 64, so they're still figuring things out a little bit then. So I think the camera will probably be improved upon. I think that might be the biggest thing that they can fix for the Sunshine remaster. Some people complain about the blue coins. I like them, but I think maybe if you add like some sort of map system to help you keep better track of those blue coins, that'll make the experience not as trying for people. So those two elements may make the game flow a little bit better.
I feel like a lot, like for most of it, for me, it's about its flow and pacing. If I want to be able to go through without feeling like I have to stop for a second to do something, if that makes sense. Like, say if I see let's say there's like a wall ahead of me. In 64, I can just run and quickly wall jump and go. Odyssey, I have cap jumping and all that and stuff like that, right? I feel like in Sunshine, most of the levels are designed in such a way where there's no walls or anything like that because they want you to use the flood. And because they want you to use the flood kind of slows down the pace depending if you're using like a hover nozzle, because you can't just run up and just keep the momentum going. You have to stop, hover, go on.
Okay, I get it. So you're saying the flood slows it down a little bit because it's still platforming. It's just a different type of platforming. Because I still think you have that flow and that speed in Sunshine, but the flood mechanics added on top. It does give you more maneuverability, but it slows it down. Right?
Yeah. And so I just kind of prefer the movement from like 64. Galaxy, I like it too, but the thing with Galaxy is that it mostly had the spinny thing for the most part.
Do you think what if they sped up the flood mechanics a little bit? Do you think that could improve it for you?
It probably would, because that's mostly my thing.
I'm literally just talking about everything you do with the flood, just make it go a little faster, like improve it by 0.25 or 0.5% or something in terms of speed.
It's hard to say without seeing it in action.
Right.
Like I want to be able to see it in action. If I can do that and it feels good. And keep in mind, I'm not exactly a speedrunner. So I'm like, if someone who's like familiar with speedrunning, here's my opinion, it says like, what are you talking about? You can do this and this and that. Like, I'm not a speedrunner. You know, I'm talking about just like the basic mechanics of the game,
right?
Not, anything further and deeper than that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Odyssey is my favorite, or at least one of my favorites, if not my favorite, for that reason. Because I feel like you just have so many options and movement in Odyssey that and you can keep moving and do all these things.
In terms of pure gameplay, Odyssey is the best Mario game ever made. I think in terms of... I think Galaxy had some more surprising, like, mechanics that sort of... The gravity mechanics were more... they weren't expected, right? Like, what we see in Odyssey is amazing, but it's more of a perfection of the formula. Galaxy sort of like... In a way, it perfected another type of Mario, right? Because that was more of a linear style. But it's just like the gravity mechanics were something completely fresh and new.
Right.
And I think the music is better in the Galaxy games than Odyssey. But overall, gameplay-wise, in terms of like freedom of movement and the flow, Odyssey is the best.
Yeah, and that's why I love that. It's for me, and this is not just for Mario. This is like just 3D platformers as a whole. I think 3D platformers are at their best when you're not having fun just jumping, you're also having fun moving within the world. And if I'm having fun while just essentially going from point A to point B, that means the game is fun the entire time I'm playing. And for me, I didn't feel like Sunshine quite hit that.
I think if they speed up Flood a little bit, right? Tweak a couple little... I don't know what they would tweak exactly, but tweak it so that flow that you're talking about is a little faster. They fixed the camera so you have a better understanding of where you are with Mario, right? Like centering the camera is a little weird in Sunshine. They fixed that. I think that'll really improve the game for a lot of people.
Something that could also help. This is just a random mind. The hover nozzle specifically. If they can make it so that you keep momentum while you're using the hover, I think that would also help. Because from what I remember
because maybe you kind of like slow down, right?
Yeah, he slows down, and then you kind of have to hover towards where you're going. But what if he just, let's say you're running, you jump, and you activate it,
and you're just hovering slowly upwards, but your forward movement maintains.
Yeah, that is the sort of thing that would like.
Dude, I like.
If it worked, if Sunshine worked like that from the get-go, you wouldn't hear me talking.
That's interesting. That's really
I think
interesting.
It's stuff like that that slows it down that I didn't vibe with back then, and even recently, like I tried to replay it recently, and I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah, I think Sunshine is the game that kind of needs the most work. Like I feel like Sunshine would benefit from having a few more levels, like maybe adding a whole other world or something. I think that's too much to ask, right? But I think that would help. So or maybe they could find a way to just add another challenge in each Sunshine, in each world that's already in Sunshine or something.
Maybe it depends how deep they want to take it, but
yeah. But if they change the mechanics to the degree we're talking about, at that point, maybe offering an additional challenge that is sort of built around the altered mechanics would be nice to see.
Yeah, I think that'd be ideal. Yeah.
But again, this is more wishes than expectations.
Yeah.
So we'll see how things turn. I do think they'll at least adjust the camera and stuff like that, though. So yeah,
because you can make the argument that the way the nozzle works and the flood works are kind of integral to the game design, but the camera, no, it's not. Like you can fix it.
You can fix the camera, and it'll just improve the experience.
Yeah.
Actually, on that note, do you agree that the best way to handle the lack of analog shoulder buttons on Switch, because in Sunshine, you had the shoulder buttons that were analog, right? So if you pressed them softly, you could move around while shooting FLUDD, and if you held them down all the way, or you held it down all the way, you would stay in place and then shoot. Do you think they could just get by that by just having one shoulder button being the move and shoot, and the other one being stay in place and shoot?
I mean, yeah, because there's more buttons.
There's a lot more buttons on Switch.
Yeah. So you could definitely map that kind of control to like one of those specific things, like L, because there was no L on the GameCube controller.
Yep.
You could easily just map it to one of the buttons that just didn't exist prior to the original release.
We also have L3 and R3, right?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah. I think they're.
Although I would imagine walking and clicking down L3 and walking at the same time would be very awkward.
Maybe you could use that for the map.
Yeah.
Or minus for the map. You don't have to clap the clicks to work at all. I don't think. You don't have to click the sticks, but it's an option if you have to do it. You can put the map on minus. That way, you can use all 4 shoulder buttons for something else. One could be center camera. They might only need 3 shoulder buttons actually, so they could probably still have the map there as well. Yeah, they could, because the GameCube had 3 shoulder buttons, right? One of the shoulder buttons was used to do 2 different things. With just add another shoulder button, and there you go.
Yeah, so I think I don't think they'll have too many issues trying to get that.
You're right. I agree with you. Anyway, I think that's pretty. We talked about a lot. We covered a lot of ground, I think. Anything else you want to bring up before we call it a night?
I want to glitch Mario 64 and speedrun.
There you go. I hope it happens. I did see that Tigger asked a question that I want to clarify. I think it was already clarified, but I just want to say it for everyone listening. Tigger asked, is Xenoblade third-party exclusive? It's actually first-party exclusive. As it was explained in the chat by, I believe, Nexus, Nintendo owns Monolith Soft 100%. I've seen this issue come up even from some big YouTubers saying, hey, Monolith Soft is third-party. No, it's not. Monolith Soft is 100% Nintendo. So anything that comes from Monolith Soft is a Nintendo game. Xenoblade is just as Nintendo as Mario is. For some people, that may be weird because they don't recognize Xenoblade as Nintendo, but it is. So, it's all Nintendo 100%. First part.
I would say Fire Emblem and Xenoblade are practically almost exactly the same in terms of how developed by another company, but it's basically first party.
It's 100% first party because Nintendo owns them, right? But I think I think the thing is that at one point they weren't owned by Nintendo. So at one point that developer, they were third party to Nintendo, but Nintendo owns them now. And they've owned them for years. So they're fully. I mean, Monolith Soft helps to develop Zelda. They are like you have the Zelda team, and then you have the second Zelda team, which is Monolith Soft, right? They're not actually the Zelda dedicated secondary Zelda team, but they've helped out for Skyward Sword. They helped out for Breath of the Wild. They're helping out for Breath of the Wild too. They have concept art with Zelda in it.
They helped with Animal Crossing, from what I heard.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But
I think I saw that earlier today. That Monolith helped.
Interesting. What is that? What? I want Monolith Soft is becoming. I'm seeing an article right now from Nintendo Life. Xenoblade Studio Monolith actually helped out with Animal Crossing New Horizons. That is super interesting. So more to the point, Monolith Soft is basically at this point becoming like another EAD group.
Yeah.
Because Nintendo has a few EAD teams. They might call them like EPD or something now. They changed the name a little bit, but like there are these in-house Nintendo developers. Monolith Soft works with these groups all the time, as evidenced by working on both Breath of the Wild and Animal Crossing. So yeah, they are, as far as I'm concerned, they are 100% super. I mean, factually, they are 100% Nintendo because Nintendo owns them. But yeah.
Okay. They also helped with New Leaf a bit.
No. Monolith Soft does a lot. I think they're about almost at 250 members now. They've been growing a lot. I think they have like multiple studios now too. They've been expanding quite a bit lately.
Yeah. Basically, there's a good chance that if you like a Nintendo game, there's a good chance Monolith helped in some capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. Play Xenoblade because that's their core series and it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Shifty, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. It was really great to have you again. Guys, make sure to check out his channel. It's linked in the description below. Anything else, man?
I play a lot of Smash, so I hope you like Smash.
Who doesn't like Smash? I've met some people who don't like Smash, believe it or not.
Oh, maybe they're just bad.
Could be. I'm bad. I still like Smash, so. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, spread the podcast, stay tuned. There's more content coming really soon. I have a Xenoblade thing I'm working on. Hopefully it comes out really soon. But yeah, have a great night. Take care.
See you.